never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
What's Pro Football Focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady. We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Do you not understand that they are that way because you're Joe Flacco?
And you just like to discredit things that people deserve credit for.
That you can't possibly be expected to defend that.
Talk about the game, Sam.
So,
who cares about what people think about us?
Yeah, I like football, I like football season, all the things that go with it.
Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo back here with Sam Monson, and we are recapping all things Week 4 here on the PFF NFL podcast. So, Sam, let's get this thing going. We got a nice new little desk here.
Little is huge.
It's a big desk. I
It's
feel like I'm yelling to you.
Yeah.
On the other side.
Yeah, well, actually, I think this way we're about the same distance apart.
I know it's the same distance. I know.
It's just everything else is much larger.
Yeah.
And this is only a temporary home. We have a new podcast studio being constructed over that way somewhere.
Over there, yeah.
Yeah. We're not in there yet. So
We're not.
We're at the desk, the studio desk. But this is nice. I like it.
It is. It's very nice. So we're at the desk for now, and we're ready to recap all the Week 4 action. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's go.
Another crazy Sunday of football. I'm going to go in whatever order I decide here, and we'll add timestamps and tell you where they are.
Let's go. Let's start with Sunday Night Football.
You want to start with Sunday Night Football?
Yeah.
Do you want to touch it all on Thursday Night Football?
No.
For a while. We did a little bit on the daily on Friday, but it was more Trevor Lawrence driven. But the Bengals moved to 3-1.
They do. Yeah.
Good job. Joe Burrow played really well.
Well done, Bengals.
All right, let's start with Sunday Night Football. Tampa Bay 19, New England 17. So you don't understand my strategy here. It takes a little time for the audience to build up here on YouTube.
I don't understand.
We're
it.
live head-to-head with Good Morning Football here.
I neither understand it nor care.
Okay. So Bucs 19, Patriots 17. A little bit of Brady, a little Belichick, a little rain, Mac Jones. It was all sorts of stuff. Exciting game. Comes down to a Nick Folk, 56-yard field goal?
Yeah.
That gets doinked.
Gets doinked or
doinked?
Yeah. I don't think the kick gets doinked as much as.
What were your thoughts on the game?
Did doink.
What were your thoughts on the game?
It left me feeling a little dead inside.
Really?
Yeah, this big hype, Brady, Belichick, the Montana revenge game, the hype that we gave it, and then it's pouring rain in Foxborough, and you're like, this is going to be a crappy game. Because rain, with the exception of like horrendous wind, rain torpedoes an NFL game worse than anything else. Like Renner.
I forgot your anti-weather game.
No, Renner is anti-weather game. Renner
you love weather games.
Weather.
That's right, okay.
Generally, I quite like weather, but I don't like rain. Now, this might be a throwback to playing in the rain when it just sucks because you can't catch the damn ball. So there might be like a personal vendetta against the rain, but I don't like it. And it does ruin offense. Like, it's not that, it makes things more difficult and you get good defense, which sometimes happens with other weather. It's just that, like, it's just harder to catch. The ball is slipperier, and what should be routine plays end up dropped, and suddenly drives die for no other reason than the ball is slippy, and that just sucks.
That was certainly a factor in the game. Brady's stats did not look
despite, by the way, both coaches allegedly claiming at halftime that it wasn't a factor. Like, liars.
No, there was a fumble early, too. I mean, look, fumbles happen without the rain, too,
right.
But Patriots fumbled. That's
I'm just saying, there are going to be people that are like, oh, both coaches said it wasn't a factor. Like, yeah, both coaches were lying out of their ass. This was a ridiculous factor in the game.
Brady had 5 passes dropped, 3 of which were beyond the sticks, 1 of which was he hits Antonio Brown's
a game-winning dime.
Yeah. Right. It would have been the game. That would have been the highlight that was shown forever. When Brady goes back to Foxborough, there's some ups and downs, and Belichick, gave him his best shot and held Brady down for most of the game. and then Brady hits the dime to seal the deal, right? 3rd and 8, puts it right on Antonio Brown's hands, and he can't haul it in. Brady kind of missed out on like the highlight that would have sealed it. He still, leads the game-winning drive. They kick a field goal to win it, but that would have been the icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's the play that this game deserved to finish on, right? Like Brady struggles largely throughout the game in terms of offensive production. The Patriots actually do a really good job of limiting him. They do a pretty good job of the other side of the ball themselves, getting Mac Jones going and surviving the Tampa Bay blitz. And then Brady has the time to go march down the field on his own and put up the winning points. And throws essentially a touchdown dime to Antonio Brown, having just thrown a second one where Brown for some reason lost the ball while it was in the air. If they had connected on that, and it would have been not a walk-off touchdown because it was still time, but that would have been the perfect ending to this game. Instead, they got to do it the hard way, kick points, and then let the Patriots try and answer, which they almost do. And that was a weird decision for the Patriots to go for. So they end up with a 56-yard attempt. What was it, 4th and 4?
I think it was 4th and 3.
4th and 3?
Yeah.
With like a minute left almost, right?
Yeah.
Even if you make it, you're giving Tom Brady a minute to answer when all he needs is a field goal.
No, rain is a factor. So it started raining too. Remember,
Yes.
Rain was off and on throughout the game. I think it stopped for a big chunk of the fourth quarter, but it came back for Mac Jones' game-winning drive attempt. So rain was a factor.
Right. So a minute and to work needing a field goal when it's raining is different from a minute to work needing a field goal when it's perfect conditions.
But the rain is also a factor with your kicker, right? And Boss Chris kept reminding us that Nick Folk had a plant leg issue and the whole thing. I mean, he almost got it there. I mean, it doinked. It was close. But yeah, I mean, you're putting the game on the line with one play on 4th down versus the field goal while also leaving just a little bit of time. It is one of those games where even like when Brady broke the all-time passing record, it was anticlimactic. It was like,
good,
I
that's
think
always
that's
a farce.
I know. I mean, it's just the passing yards record, and it just got broken a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And, if we keep playing 17 games, Sam, all the records are going to fall. Not for a while, but they'll fall. When Mahomes gets it in 15 years or whatever it is. But that was anticlimactic, too. We had Al Michaels on air, like...
He sounded pissed.
Was it 67? Was it 60? How many yards? He needed 68 yards. He's like, oh, they moved it forward. No, wait, it's not the record. Oh, it is the record. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It was funny because I think the Patriots wanted to stop the game. They
Right.
were trying to create as many distractions as possible. They play a Brady hype video before the game. They were trying to tap into his emotions before the game, weren't they?
Yeah. I'm glad though that it got broken that way because when they stop the game for the yardage marker, it's always a bit ridiculous. Particularly when it's I don't know. It's obvious it's happening. Everyone knows it's a thing. And then, let's halt the game because of this 6-yard completion. And it's just good. He got it. He's now the record holder. Let's move on. But I thought the Patriots defense did a really good job against Brady and that Tampa Bay offense. Now, obviously, the weather was a factor, and there was a lot of plays left on the table because of things that weren't the Patriots defense. But they were making the point all the way through the broadcast that they were just showing him different things every play, which is pretty much what you have to do. You can't. It's like the end years of Peyton Manning was the same, right? There's nothing you can show him that he hasn't already seen and knows about. So the best you can do is just show him something different every play. And even if he knows each and every one of them, there is something to be gained from just making him go through the process.
Slight hesitation, right?
Of figuring it out every play, right? If you drop back and you're showing him the same thing every single play, there's no thinking time. There's no processing involved. He just carves you up. But if you at least make him diagnose every single coverage every single time, there's got to be something to be gained in that.
This was the first game the Bucs tried to run the ball, and Leonard Fournette ran well. I mean, it was playoff atmosphere Lenny, Sam. Playoff Lenny. It was playoff atmosphere.
Playoff atmosphere Lenny.
He ran hard. He ran the ball well. The Bucs actually committed to it. That was a big chunk of their offense in the second half. And he ran 20 carries for 91 yards. It was pretty efficient. When you say efficient run game, there's always those 1 or 2 yard carries that kind of get you off schedule. But he ran the ball pretty well, actually caught the ball pretty well. One of his better games that we've seen as a Buc. And you're right, the pass game was just kind of off kilter. The Bucs didn't move the ball. Brady missed a bunch of throws early, and then they didn't move the ball unless he was, hitting a big-time throw down the field. Slot fade to Chris Godwin. One of his best throws was negated to Antonio Brown due to a hands-to-the-face penalty. And as I said, the best throw of the night was dropped in the end zone. So is this Belichick and the Patriots just made life difficult for the Bucs offense. And then on the other side, we've seen this in New England history before. When they run up against a really good run defense, they just don't even try. And they finished with 8 carries for -1 yard against the Bucs. Nelson Aguilar was leading rusher, 1 carry for 4 yards. Brady did have 6 yards before he took the QB sneak. He was out. He would have been the leading rusher on he would have outgained any of the runners on the Patriots at one point. So Mac Jones has to drop back 44 times, 31 for 40 for 275. The underneath game again. I think what's lacking with the Patriots, though, between the 20s has been great. They have struggled in the red zone. And it's Mac, too. He is very good. He deserves a lot of credit standing in there against the blitz. He was excellent underneath, but they hit a wall in the red zone, and that includes Mac and his decision-making.
Yeah. His grade is not going to be great, and it's almost all down to the fact that he threw the ball right to a linebacker in the red zone.
In the fourth quarter, would have ended the game. Essentially ended the game.
Yeah, it would have been
come close.
Just a complete death knell of a penalty, like a nail in the coffin for the team in that game, and undo all of the good that he'd done beforehand. But they put a lot on his plate in terms of saying it's on you, right? There's no run game. They're going to blitz the crap out of you. You got to hold up and show that you can do it. And it doesn't mean pushing the ball downfield necessarily. It just involves making sure you're not getting sacked every play. And he did a pretty good job. Mac Jones has been the most impressive rookie quarterback this year. Now, over the first 3 weeks, that hasn't been a tremendously high bar to clear. But it got higher yesterday, or this week. All of the rookie quarterbacks, except Davis Mills, all of the first-round rookie quarterbacks raised their stock this week. All of them look significantly better. Trevor Lawrence was making some great throws back on Thursday night. Zach Wilson looked way better. Justin Fields played the Lions. So all these guys looked a lot better this week. And, Mac Jones' grade won't be great, and his stats weren't phenomenal. But given the situation, he played pretty well.
Yeah, the thing about Mac is he just completes passes for the most part. He just keeps moving the ball. And again, it's whether it's under pressure, whether it's against the blitz, it doesn't really matter. The thing with him is 2 turnover-worthy plays. Again, the one that was really bad back across the grain. And this is why we exist here at PFF, Sam, because we can.
I was wondering why.
Yeah, because we can isolate those plays, right? I mean, think about the stories today. If one of 2 plays goes the other way, no matter what we saw, overall Mac Jones was impressive. But if Levante David catches the interception, or if Antonio Brown catches the touchdown, the whole narrative for Brady, sticks a fork in him at the end and blah blah blah, or Mac Jones, the moment's just too big for him. Threw the ball back across his body. He was great the whole game, but rookie mistake really cost him. Nobody remembers the rookie mistake right here.
Right.
But it's still charted. It's still graded. Either way, it was a tough, hard-fought game. Bucs win 19-17, and from a standings standpoint, Bucs kind of needed this to keep pace in the NFC because they're going to be in the mix for the number 1 seed. Patriots fall to 1-3. I mean, it continues to be uncharted territory. The other wacky, crazy stat: Belichick now has more losses as a head coach without Tom Brady than he has with, and that includes the playoffs. And it is when you add up the Browns and it's Patriots time.
I was going to ask, with the
not
Patriots
just as a Patriot.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. Brady also becomes whatever it is, the 4th player to beat all 32 franchises. Is it 4, 3, whatever it is? Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, him. 4, and him and Breeze.
Do you know who? Do you know the no quarterbacks lost to all 32 teams? I saw this stat out on Twitter last night. Mm-hmm. You know who's close?
No.
Derek Carr.
Really?
Derek Carr's got 4 more teams to go, including the Raiders.
Okay.
To lose to all 32 teams. Just saying,
My favorite
It's a
random
record
stat,
to strive for.
Yeah, my favorite random stat from all these records is, Brady recently became the most sacked quarterback of all time, passing Brett Favre, who holds all of these records. But what's amazing is that Ben Roethlisberger is like 2 sacks behind him.
Yeah.
On like 70 fewer games. Roethlisberger just a sack machine. Also, Peyton Manning is like the least sacked quarterback of just the Mannings. Like, he has way fewer career sacks than Eli or Archie, despite playing, I think, significantly longer than either of them. That dude, despite, essentially being top 1, 2, 3 in all the cumulative stats, is nowhere on the sack list. Like, he's not top 20 in terms of the most sacked quarterbacks of all time. That dude never took a sack, regardless of how good the offensive line was.
On local radio in Boston today, Bill Belichick, take us inside the decision to kick the 56-yard field goal.
Did he just answer no?
Belichick, quote, thinking we were going to make it within a couple inches. Nick's a really consistent kicker. He's been hitting the ball well. He hit that one well. Just missed by a couple inches.
Yeah.
So there you go.
What does this game, who does it say more about to you, the Bucs or the Patriots?
I think it says, man, I think there's something to take away from both. I think New England, as a team, this is in line with some of their other games. Close, they lose to Miami in a close one in week 1. They lose to the Saints in week 3. They're close. They're missing something. And look, I saw somebody make a joke on Twitter where it's like, Mac Jones, this is like the 4th game this year. They leave the game. The announcers are raving about him. He missed 3 throws the whole game, and they scored 17 points, or they score 10 points, or they score 16 points. They have to be better in the red area. They have to actually put points on the board as much as you rave about Mac Jones, but I think it shows that they're close. If they were a little bit more efficient offensively, I think New England's they're a dangerous team that can keep it tight. So it says a lot about what they're capable of, I think, defensively. With the Bucs, every corner has started to get hurt. Richard Sherman, when he signed, said, "Oh, I'm going to sit a week. I'm going to."
They said it. They were like, "Oh, a lot of people would need to get hurt for Sherman to play."
And they all did
in this game. Not only did he play, he started, and by the end of it was like their only healthy corner.
So even though they only gave up 17 points, Jamel Dean missed the game. Sean Murphy-Bunting has been out. Richard Sherman was forced to start. And I think Chris highlighted it well, too. He's playing a lot of off coverage, didn't always have the underneath help. When he was in one-on-one coverage, he was getting beaten. So Richard Sherman's he's a part of this defense now.
Yeah.
Then Carlton Davis gets hurt during the game. So the thing we said in the preseason about – what's that?
On like a punt.
Yeah,
wasn't even like playing defense.
And he had a hamstring injury coming in, and this was a quad, I believe. It looked bad. So, yeah, the Bucs are beat up in the secondary. So I think it says a lot about what they how fragile they are, maybe in the secondary. Again, even though they gave up 17 points in this one, but the offense too, I think there were points last year where the offense was too driven by big-time throws. There wasn't enough of the underneath stuff, and I think you saw some of that again in this game where it was too boom or bust offensively for the Bucs in the past game.
Sherman played pretty well when you consider he came basically out of the podcast studio and the Peloton bike to play in a game on Sunday Night Football in like a week's notice.
Using perspective, yes. Using the perspective of, okay, go play corner for the Super Bowl champs that have aspirations of not losing another game.
Sure.
Then it's going to be,
but
it's challenging.
When you consider, when he signed, we were saying that this is probably a signing for January, not for now. When it looked like he wasn't going to play,
right?
As opposed to, will you be starting week 1? With that in mind, I think this isn't. He looked like a guy that could actually help you in January. Like if you get to January, once everybody's got healthy, and then somebody gets hurt again, and all of a sudden you've got to go from one of those starters. You got to turn to Richard Sherman, having given him a couple of months to get spooled up and ready. Like that's good.
Do you think what do you think it says more about, or which team? Your question.
For me, it felt like the Patriots kind of gave the Bucs their best shot. Like this is classic Belichick, right? You give him a little bit of time. You have him laser focused on a specific game. He's going to come up with this amazing game plan, aided by the weather. And he will very much shut down that team and give the Patriots a chance to win a game that they really shouldn't have won or shouldn't have been in based off what we knew about both teams going in. Like if you weren't invested in the Brady Belichick storyline, Now, most people were, but there are definitely people out there that just didn't give a crap,
They were
right?
tired of it, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're one of those people, this was not a game that was interesting to you going into it.
Right.
It's like this is a Bucs walkover. Tampa Bay go in, they beat the crap out of the Patriots, and they get a win and leave. But it wasn't like that. It was very close, and for a decent period of time, it looked like the Patriots were going to have enough to snatch it. That felt like, this was Belichick's best shot, essentially, and they still lost. And it didn't do anything. Like, can he do this again next week, or is this just who the Patriots are right now?
Well, yeah, they play the Texans next week, so I think they'll be okay. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing. They gave their best shot to a team that could be the number 1 seed in the NFC.
But there's always something that feels a little deflating about when you give your best shot and
Yeah.
it comes up short. Like,
Yeah.
and particularly the Patriots probably aren't too used to that.
The one other piece of the storyline is it was fair to say last year at this time the Patriots were a little overmatched personnel-wise. They had a lot of dead cap money. They were transitioning to Cam Newton and all that stuff, right? Then they go out and spent more money than they've ever spent in history this offseason in free agency. And the thing I kept saying all offseason is that's going to come back to pay off this year, not necessarily next year. The cap hits are going to hit. So that would be the part that's concerning if you're New England, if you're 1-3, all of those free agent investments this offseason, like you got to start cashing in with those guys at some point. So anyway, I thought, the drama was weird, but it was good overall. We'll get into all the other games, but a reminder that DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, has a Week 5 offer every football fan should jump on. New customers can bet just $1 on any NFL game. That's all you need. And you win $100 in free bets. If either team scores a point, this is a no-brainer, Sam. The last 0-0 tie in the NFL was 1943. Just need a team to score a point. If Sportsbook isn't available yet in your state, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contest. And DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF to throw down $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. It's promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I have a feeling most NFL teams will at least score a point. So, DraftKings.com promo code PFF is an absolute no-brainer. All right, let's go through. You want to take the reins here?
No. Now I'm done.
You just wanted to start with Sunday Night Football.
Now you can go back to whatever insane order you had.
I'm going by PFF Ultimate. So the Detroit Lions and Chicago Bears. Bears 24, Lions 14.
Narrative season.
It is narrative season. Before the game, I don't know, did Matt Nagy announce this? I don't know what the
Play
procedure
calling?
was. Yes.
No, they had to define this because when Justin Fields was listening for the play, I saw somebody tweeting this. When Justin Fields was listening for the play, like communication from the sideline, Matt Nagy was not speaking into his headset. Ergo, Matt Nagy was not the one relaying plays to him.
Did he confirm that?
I don't know.
Anyway, the Bears looked better.
Yes.
Justin Fields looked better offensively.
Yeah.
I think in 20 dropbacks, we got to see his arm talent, which is great. That was the thing we didn't get to see last week. Everything was painful. A 5-yard route, it was painful. I mean, it was difficult to complete anything. At least in this game, we got to see Justin Fields' arm talent. We saw tight window throws. We saw him throw a couple bombs right on point. We saw Darnell Mooney make some really nice plays and show that explosiveness.
That might be one of the plays of the week.
Describe
it. Justin Fields targets Darnell Mooney on a deep over route, behind the linebackers. That was it cover 3? It was the classic kind of cover 3, deep crosser behind the linebackers ahead of the deep stuff. Basically overthrows him. And
yeah, Fields kind of misses the throw. It was wide open.
So Mooney's sprinting full clip. The ball is basically over and ahead of him, and it doesn't seem to matter because he just reaches out, dives, one-handed, snags it. It's insane. That honestly is one of the best plays of the week and one of the catches of the season, and it's not going to get the credit for it because it was sort of it was one of those plays where it was so incredibly good but made to look routine. He says, "Oh, that was a good catch," and then on we move. But like, I don't think you appreciate how good a catch that was.
Mooney's a really good athlete, and this is what could be exciting about this Bears offense. We know how good Allen Robinson is, but Mooney is fast, but he's also got this. He's just got really good ball skills. Those types of plays. He showed that at Tulane. With Fields, 4 big-time throws, 2 bombs that he puts right on his receiver. He has a dig route to Allen Robinson, which was, again, fantastic. There was an underneath linebacker. He puts it right on him, throws it on time, was great. And then the last one is an Allen Robinson deep out, and it is one of those where, again, when you're describing Justin Fields coming out of Ohio State, it's like
that's his play.
He's got every level of velocity that you need on the ball. He can layer it. But this is like a see it, throw it. It is perfectly in between the corner and the safety. It's about 25 yards downfield. I was glad we at least got to see Justin Fields' arm talent, man. It was on display. Now, he did try to fumble it late, and look, there's always going to be some ups and downs, but this was, you mentioned all the first-round rookies at least elevated their stock. Fields' stock was as low as it could have been, but it was a good game, even if it was against the Lions defense.
Yeah. It's a very weird game for narratives, right? Because you come out of last week, and it was an absolute disaster. Fields was bad. The offense was bad. The offensive line was bad. The receivers were bad. The game plan was bad. And it's like, what do you blame? And obviously, you can't blame everything because that's not the way the world works. You have to pick a thing. You have to pick a scapegoat. And most people's allotted chosen scapegoat was Matt Nagy. It's like, well, this is Matt Nagy's fault. The game plan is the worst I've ever seen. This is negligent, or this is like, people were actively accusing him of throwing the game effectively last week to make Justin Fields look bad so that he could step back and be like, see, I told you he wasn't ready. Like, that is absurd. If you are genuinely making that case, you have stayed too long at the fair and you're just out of your mind. People don't do that at this level. So last week was not a product of Matt Nagy sabotaging Justin Fields. It was a product of the fact that their entire offense was horrendously overmatched. Now, does that mean Nagy did everything right and couldn't have made anything better of the situation? Of course not. But most of the things people were throwing at him were ridiculous. So this week, I was really interested to see, well, what does the game plan look like against the Lions, having sort of spent a week analyzing the train wreck that was last week. They did run a lot more extra protection stuff. They kept running backs and tight ends in to chip block primarily, but also just be part of the protection package a lot more. I don't know that they needed to against Detroit, but that was an adjustment that they made. But the routes were still very much the same. The play designs hadn't changed all that much. There was still a lot of like Justin Fields needing to wait for stuff to uncover deeper down the field, which again was fine against Detroit, particularly when you have extra protection. But next up is like the Raiders, and that might not fly again. But the other thing, like, they didn't move the pocket a ton more. Like, that was one of the things. That's what everybody
said. You gotta roll them out. It's the only way to use Justin Fields.
Didn't do that anymore really this week than a week ago. They didn't run a ton of bootlegs and all that kind of stuff. And interestingly, we saw late the play you mentioned where he fumbled it and managed to get back on top of it after the ball like skidded around the place. That was an example of why you don't necessarily want to move the pocket, because they did. They faked, outside zone action in one direction. They then sort of had Fields pull back and have essentially a pocket that had been rolled to the right. And when you do that, you have to have someone sort of come across the formation and pick up the backside defensive end. Otherwise, that dude is unblocked. So they did that, but that guy is a tight end, and the defensive end just immediately spins inside of him, and now he's bearing down on Justin Fields' blind side like a second and a half into the play, drills him, fumble. That could have been the game, right? But that's a cautionary tale. That's why you don't necessarily just want to move the pocket. It isn't like, it's not a cure-all to all of your problems. It comes with risk as well. But this was like the Justin Fields that we've been expecting to see, right? There were some problems in there. There were some bad things, but he also showed 2 or 3 absolute dimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, showed that there is potential for him to do really good things if the platform is there in terms of offensive line and protection, which it was against Detroit. The question now is, can that hold against like a bunch of better defenses that are coming down the line again?
Yeah, I mentioned in the preview show, the Lions, I mean, they already didn't have the best cornerback room or secondary. They had some potential maybe coming into the season, but Bobby Price who I mentioned on the show, 2020 undrafted free agent. He got attacked. I mean, this was, look, it's not a great Lions team. So, Fields, it's an encouraging next step for Fields. The Bears fans should be excited about the throws that he showed that he was capable of making. They did spend they tried to run the ball quite a bit. David Montgomery had 23 carries, and they finished with 39 for 188 as a team, all told. So the game flow was a lot cleaner for the Bears too, and you only had Fields dropping back 21 times as well. On the other side, Jared Goff, the most consistent quarterback. What does post Sean McVay Jared Goff look like?
The same.
Well, it looks like a quarterback. Here are his passing grades: 65, 68, 65, 66 in his 4 games with the Lions. Jared Goff is now the most consistently average quarterback in the NFL. So that is the start of the Jared Goff post Sean McVay era. Look, the Lions are they're just overmatched, man. I don't think you have, look, they've got some young receivers. Khalif Raymond ends up in the end zone a couple times, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Quintez Cephas. You've got these guys who are intriguing and are probably a part of the rebuild, but those are receivers 2, 3, and 4, or 3, 4, and 5 on a good team.
This game also featured the most insane play I can remember seeing in a long time.
Oh yeah, that was ridiculous.
The Bears.
I like the way you worded it.
I tweeted that the Bears intercepted a snap, right? Which technically isn't true because it's a fumble, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, Jared Goff wasn't ready for the ball. It was snapped. It ricocheted off his knee and bounced forward into the arms of a defensive tackle in a second. I've never seen that before. It's ridiculous. It could probably only happen to the Lions, but it happened.
Yes, that was fun.
Amazing.
Anyway, Bears win. The other weird part, their secondary got picked apart a little bit. They're week to week, the Bears. They've got some good games, some bad games. I think ultimately their secondary is going to be an issue.
Yeah, they're not
for them.
They're not the team they used to be. This isn't, remember, effectively they wasted a real contending window with Mitch Trubisky as their quarterback, and they finally got a new quarterback, Justin Fields, and they just don't have the same team around him that they used to. Whatever you think about Matt Nagy at this point, there was a window where this team could have contended if they had a significantly better quarterback than Trubisky. They didn't. They tread water during that time, but a little bit like the Kirk Cousins situation in Minnesota, the roster just eroded around him. And now, whether or not he was capable of elevating the team that they had, the team isn't there anymore. They've lost too much talent.
All right, let's go to the Jets and Titans. But before we do, our friends over at Manscaped, they're back, and they remind us that it's football season, baby. You know what that means?
What does it mean, Steve?
It means we're going for 2 here with the sponsors of today's show. It's Manscaped. Blitzing through hairs has never been easier, and it's time that you join 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the promo code PFF at manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping. It's 3 and out the window with all those other trimmers. You know that?
Okay.
3 and out the window. Now go tame that Wildcat offense with Manscaped. Look, It's just the best in the business. I've had the 2.0, the 3.0, the 4.0. 4.0, it's the best around. It's brand new.
It's here to take at least twice as good as the 2.0.
It's at least twice as good. Look, you're not going to get your nicks, and it's not going to hurt. It's what Manscaped does. Here to take your defense to the next level. 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic braid to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. That's right, that's trademarked by Manscaped. That's why they're the best in the business. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, Sam. A new multi-function on-off switch can engage a travel lock and gives you the ability to turn the 4,000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. So the light's a pretty good addition there. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? So, you could use it in the rain. Rain, snow, or sleet are no match for the waterproof power of the 4.0. You could have used it at the Patriots game last night.
I mean, look, it's fall weather, the rain starts, so the first thing you think of is, whipping out the trimmer and shaving your nuts. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's what I think of when fall weather starts.
That's what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. Right. There's no 15-yard penalty for this clipping. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code PFF. Stiff arm your pubes out of the playoffs this year with Manscaped. I took a deep breath for that one.
That's a good one.
All I know is this is our listeners probably need this.
I think everybody needs this in their lives.
We're heavy males. There's a lot of people listening. They're like, hey, I'm going to jump on that Manscaped bandwagon with the other 2 million men.
We're heavy what?
Like heavy demographic.
Oh, okay.
Heavy demographic.
I thought you were referring to, the added weight we're carrying.
I'm losing weight.
Oh, yeah?
By the way. I need to with these chairs, by the way.
Yeah, they're not. It's
What's
not a
the
flattering
poundage
posture.
on this? I'm at least 80 pounds
Oh, that's
over.
true. I hadn't even thought
minimum.
about it. Yeah. It's amazing to me that like you just exist in this whole different world to like regular humans. You know, like
there's a lot of changes going on here at PFF, and nobody was like, "Hey, I wonder what nearly 300-pound Steve would do in these chairs for 2 hours doing a podcast."
But like the other day, with the Josh Allen jersey thing. Oh, by the way, email us nflpodcast@pff.com. Give us charity ideas. We're looking for an animal, some kind of animal charity we can donate to this time, and the actual forfeit, the thing that we can do to raise money for the charity. We've had some ideas. Some of them are pretty good. I think the winner is still you posterizing me on a dunk, or at least attempting to. If you can do better than that, we'll probably announce it sometime this week. Maybe Wednesday is the show for that. But email us, give us ideas, because we need to spool up the next one. But when you were getting the Josh Allen jersey, you were like, do I get 2XL or 3? I was like, I am unfamiliar in the world of X when it comes to clothing. Like I max out at an L. I don't have to venture into the world of X's. So I have no idea how many X's you need on a thing. And then, like Scout my daughter has like a soccer thing every week. And it's just out in a field, right? So everybody brings those little camping chairs and stuff. Yeah. So, you just go and grab a camping chair. Like it never even occurs to me that there's like a weight limit on these things that some people need to pay attention to.
My camping chair is a little more heavy duty. You get a bigger one.
I'm just like, give me a camping chair. A camping chair is a camping chair. It'll hold my weight. I don't weigh that much. You have to be like going through the fine print. I'm like, how many pounds can this thing deal with? No, I can't have that one. I got to get the reinforced special.
Oh yeah, I've broken some chairs in my day. Not gonna lie.
And you. Like, okay, you're a large human, but like there's people way beyond you. I mean, what do you reckon our friend of the show, Jeff Schwartz, is clocking in at nowadays?
That's a good point. There's some like legitimate
whatever reinforcement you need to get done. Think of what he has to do.
All right, let's get to the Titans-Jets here. Jets get their first win. It's in overtime, 27-24. We'll start on the Jets side here. Zach Wilson, again, rookie quarterback, makes do. I mean, he was so much better in this game than other games. Throws an interception. That's pretty much Corey Davis's fault. But maybe the throw of the week goes to Corey Davis. 54 yards, whatever it was, 53 yards.
Yeah, but did you notice that it was like all Zach being like, Corey, go over there. That's where I want you. Run in that direction.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. That interception looked horrendous. Just on TV broadcast, it's like, what are you doing? And then you see the film, and it's like Corey Davis trying to cut off his wrong foot and just flattens himself. And, okay, Fulton looked like he was always in pretty good position for that and was going to cut him off anyway, or at least be in position to contest. Yeah. But Corey Davis just made a absolute balls of that.
So Zach Wilson finishes 21 of 34 for 297. It included that 54-yard touchdown, so 2 touchdowns, and the 1 interception was not on Zach Wilson. He did have 3 other turnover-worthy plays. It's not like he played a pristine game. But I think the exciting part for Jets fans is the arm talent component, man. I mean, there are those plays where he's got like the little shoulder fake, and he just the ball explodes out of his hand. He's got the touchdown on the run. 4 big-time throws for Zach Wilson that showed off what he is capable of. And that was kind of the Jets' offense, right? It wasn't really this efficient offense. It was big play driven, flip the field driven. That's what Zach Wilson brought to the table in this game. And they hung tough, man. And then, pull it off in overtime. Yeah.
This week, every rookie quarterback looked more like the way we thought they would. Does that make sense? It's not that any of them were phenomenal necessarily. Like, none of them are going to be the best graded quarterback of the week or right up there with those 90 grades. They each maintained sort of some bad plays, some rookie flaws. But this looked far more like we were expecting. Like there was some great arm talent on display by pretty much all of them. Some incredible big plays. It characteristically looked a lot more like the college and preseason version of themselves with those mistakes in there as well. So like if Zach Wilson had looked like this for the first few weeks, we'd be loving it. We'd be absolutely fine. We'd be saying this is good. He'll work out the rookie errors, but the arm talent is insane. Like he's made some incredible throws, and all is good in New York. But it's taken them like a month to get him to this point. But you have to be encouraged by this game based off those first three where it looked pretty ugly.
For sure. And I also think Robert Saleh defensively, they've done some nice things. They were getting after Ryan Tannehill. And it is, I think when you're judging a first-year coach like Saleh, I think just look. So here are the guys who really performed well from a pass rushing standpoint from the Jets yesterday. John Franklin Myers, Sheldon Rankins, really nice offseason free agent pickup. Bryce Huff, who they've developed into a pretty reasonable player. My boy Folo Fadakasi had a good game, and then Quinnen Williams, guy that everybody knows. But that's not this like fearsome group of defensive linemen that you're afraid of every given week. But they were getting after Ryan Tannehill. They sacked him 7 times total, getting pressure on him. So I think when you're judging a Saleh in year one, I like seeing that. I like seeing this. They lose Carl. I don't like seeing Carl Lawson getting hurt, but they had to stitch it together from a pass rush standpoint, and you're seeing elements of that where the names aren't great, but they're competitive and staying in games, and that's how you win some of these. So I'm impressed by what the Jets did defensively. All that said, Tennessee Titans had no A.J. Brown, had no Julio Jones. Their offense was essentially, like early in the game, they had a 3rd and 19 conversion on a screen to Jeremy McNichols. I mean, it was the Jeremy McNichols screen offense. And then, 33 handoffs to Derrick Henry because that's what he does.
Yeah, well, that's what he does, and that's what they do, and they don't have any receivers to throw to.
Yeah. But, I mean, Tannehill still dropped back like 58 times or whatever it was.
Yeah, and part of that was because they were actually losing for a period of this game and actually needed to pass the ball. This was an example of, we said that. Like, somebody tweeted us before the games or sometime over the weekend, like, we had been saying if one of A.J. Brown or Julio Jones goes down, they might have some problems. And they were without both of them heading into this game. And when you look at the receivers that they have beyond those guys, it's just not good. There's nobody in that group that you think are going to win one-on-one matchups consistently and replace what they get from those players. And you see that from the numbers. Like, a bunch of different guys had a decent number of targets. Chester Rogers with 6, Josh Reynolds with 9 targets, but they produced 6 catches and 59 yards. Like, it just wasn't the same thing. And then a ton of, targets to Jeremy McNichols out of the backfield. Derrick Henry running the ball as well as he does, 33 carries for 157 yards, 80 of which came after contact. Now, okay, this went to overtime as well, so you're going to see bigger numbers across the board. But I think it backed up the idea that without those two guys, this is not anything close to being the same offense.
I'm looking at Tannehill's best throws right now, too. It's a fascinating season for him. He entered the game with the highest number of big-time throws that fell incomplete. All of his best throws had one in the end zone where a receiver kind of dives instead of just running through it, has another bomb, and it just, 3 really nice throws that weren't complete. I mean, Tannehill throwing the ball, as much as I've expected some level of regression back to Miami days from Tannehill.
There really isn't one at this point.
There isn't one, right? I mean, he is throwing the ball well. Now, statistical regression is there, again, because you don't have the A.J. Brown factor. You don't have Julio Jones healthy, or last year Corey Davis. You don't have the play-action attack that was so deadly for the Titans. So the efficiency was incredible for the Titans, but Tannehill throwing the ball is great. He is kind of reverting back to taking too many sacks. So as much as you give credit to the Jets defense for getting after him, that is one of those places where Tannehill was really lacking in Miami, was just too many negative plays when it comes to taking too many sacks. But and then there's enough concerns with the Titans defensively, right? I mean, Christian Fulton had the nice interception, but him and Jack Rabbit gave up some yards, gave up some catches in this game, and their pass rush has been just extremely inconsistent week to week. It's been good when it's going after Carson Wentz and the Colts. so far, the Titans.
The Jets made a lot of people happy over the weekend, where they said that Denzel Mims would be active in this game. Such were injuries that Denzel Mims would actually play, regardless of the fact that he doesn't play special teams and can't back up every receiver spot. I got a whole 5 receiving snaps.
He did play.
Not a single target. So that was worth the time and effort everybody put into it.
I mean, honestly, the trio of Corey Davis, Keelan Cole, and Jamison Crowder is not bad.
Yeah.
It's not a bad
Keelan Cole made some big plays.
Yeah. Keelan Cole's a sneaky good receiver in the NFL. Anyway, congrats to the Jets. Yeah. They win a game. Zach Wilson, really impressive performance for the rookie. Let's go Cleveland Browns 14, Minnesota Vikings 7. Man, I thought, first drive Vikings go down and score. Cousins 6 for 6. Their first drive, at least. Right. And that was it. Yeah. The line is the Vikings score 7 in the first. The Browns win the second quarter 11-0. And then there's no other points until the Browns kick a field goal in the fourth quarter. 14-7 in this one. Why couldn't either team score?
I'm not sure, because there were a lot of good plays in there. Like, there was some – I mean, on the Browns side, Baker Mayfield didn't play well at all. That was part of it. Like, they left a bunch of plays.
We'll talk about him in a minute. I mean, he did miss a ton of throws in this game,
including like a couple of touchdowns. So that's part of it. Like, the Browns scored 14, they could have easily had 28 just from 2 more plays if Baker Mayfield had connected on throws that really should have been hit. At which point immediately it's a different conversation. Like, you're not asking why did both teams fail to score. You're asking what happened to Minnesota. From their point of view, I think it was a little bit of a mix of everything. Like, bad timing when they didn't make plays. Their offensive line was definitely overwhelmed at times. I mean, we saw what Myles Garrett and the Browns were able to do to the Bears a week ago. They didn't have quite the same level of joy against this Vikings offensive line, but they certainly got after them. I mean, Rashad Hill at left tackle against Myles Garrett is just a monstrous mismatch. Christian Darrisaw, I think, was active in this game, but still isn't playing yet. The quicker that happens, the better in terms of Minnesota's future, but that was a big part of it.
Yeah, on the Baker side of things, him and OBJ, 7 targets, 2 catches. 1 was a screen, 1 was a dig route. Everything else is just off. Again, with Baker and OBJ. What is happening? I mentioned one route last week where it was like, OBJ throws a little extra wiggle in there and throws off the timing. Everything else seemed fine. But in this game, Odell Beckham, the last one that we discussed, right? OBJ runs a great route. This should have been a touchdown. Baker throws a line drive at his feet. There's a go ball early where Odell Beckham, I think, and this happened with Antonio Brown and Brady in the game too. Part of your connection with receivers, like the receivers looking for the ball at the time that you're expecting. Antonio Brown lost a ball in flight. It feels like OBJ is just looking for the ball at different times from Baker. I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm saying you have a lot of those where Baker's throwing it back shoulder or he's throwing it closer to the sideline rather than in 5 yards in bounds. Whatever it might be, they were just off again, like it was 2019. Their connection.
Yeah, they're definitely. I don't understand why they're so rarely on the same page, but this was a lot more Baker than it was Beckham
in this game. For sure.
Like that last one, where it was like an out and up, and Odell's completely torched his defender, and Baker just misses him by like not even close. Sometimes you see these and it's like just a bit the wrong direction, and it can't connect because of that. Like, he fires it at him and misses by like 5 yards laterally, like a mile away from this throw. And that was a touchdown that you left on the table because of that miss. And then earlier, drops one that hits Cameron Dancer in the back after Odell had torched him. Like, as I say, there's 14 points to Odell Beckham on 2 plays, effectively, that Baker just missed. And he was missing all game long. Like, this was a bad performance for Baker Mayfield relative to what we expect from him. It's going to be one of the worst grades of the week. His completion rate was bad. His adjusted completion rate wasn't an awful lot better. There were a couple of drops in there, but this was the game where if you're one of those Baker Mayfield haters, like, you're loving life. This is exactly what you think he plays like every week, and he doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the people talking about this Baker and Cousins. Are they both at the are they both at the Matt Ryan inflection point? Are they both below it? This was not a good game for either quarterback.
Right.
I want to highlight. So Cousins throws a fourth quarter interception. I got to highlight this. It's one of my favorite plays in football. Jair Alexander made this play on Sunday Night Football last week against the 49ers, and I forgot to mention it. So this is Greedy Williams. He's playing the deep third in cover 3. So you've got any vertical route that comes into your area. When he sees that there's no vertical route in his area, he immediately tries to, essentially rob the post from the other side of the field. So he ends up, replacing the free safety. He goes out and makes just a beautiful play to pick off Kirk Cousins to thwart the comeback attempt in the fourth quarter. I love that play when corners, because corners, we always think about them in man coverage, right? It's like, all you do is cover your man, right? This is when you have to turn into a free safety, go up and get the ball, and it was just a really nice play. Cousins didn't see him. This was Cousins' worst game as far as him throwing the ball, but again, only 7 points after that really good first drive.
Right. Going back to the pass protection, though, the Vikings offense coughed up 29 total pressures. Rashad Hill gave up 10. Oli Udoh, who'd been playing pretty well actually this season.
There's a lot of red here, Sam.
Yeah, gave up 8 total pressures. So those two guys alone on the offensive line gave up 18 pressures, which is obviously a lot. So that was a big part of Minnesota not scoring, is putting Kirk Cousins under pressure, which we've said before, he's one of those quarterbacks that is problematic when you can get him moving and cause him some issues.
Should we be looking at the Browns pass rush a little bit more then? I mean, that was all of the narrative coming out of the Bears. Remember who the Bears played when Justin Fields made his debut last week? It was the Browns.
Yeah.
The whole narrative was centered around Justin Fields. This is the second straight week. It's been absolute dominance up front from the Browns defensive front. And again, if you go back and look at how they put it all together, adding Jadeveon Clowney for a lot cheaper than he was going for in recent years, adding Malik Jackson, those guys had a big factor in this game. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah also involved again, just in and around the line of scrimmage as a blitzer. Tack McKinley was in there, Malik McDowell. I mean, they've got retreads, they've got Garrett, who is the man. He's unstoppable, but they've stitched it together nicely on that defensive line, and they got after it these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that defensive line is imposing. I mean, it was way too good for the Chicago Bears offensive line. It was obviously too good for the Minnesota offensive line, whose weakness, though, right now is pass protection. Like, these are two teams you would expect that defensive line to cause some major problems for. I think it's a really good unit, but it's a little bit like the Raiders in that I'm not sure we know yet just how good it is. Like, we don't have a good enough barometer of what it looks like against a decent group.
Look, they're the number 15 pass rush coming in to the game. They were okay against the Chiefs, just okay against the Texans, and then really good against the Bears, and now against the Vikings. We'll see. But I think my narrative for the Browns defense coming into the season is it might take some time. With all these new pieces, defensive line, secondary, the whole back seven, a lot of turnover besides, Denzel Ward and Ronnie Harrison, really. Might take some time, and now they've given up 13 points over the last 2 weeks to the Bears and the Vikings. So they'll be challenged next week against the Chargers. They got the Cardinals in a couple weeks, but like the way the Browns are trending defensively.
By the way, even the movement of coaches being more aggressive on fourth down, et cetera, even Mike Zimmer is going for it on like 4th and 6. Okay, Myles Garrett wrecked the play on him, so maybe he'll never go for it again. But we're just reaching that point now where it's the accepted thing to go for it on these 4th down situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think even the coaches who feel things like in their gut, I think their gut is starting to tell them it's tough to stop teams. I mean, this game's not a great example. It's generally tough to stop teams, so I don't want them to have the ball. And generally it's easier to convert things, so I do want the ball. So I think even the gut is starting to say, man, it's a pass-centric league.
Well, the gut only tells you not to go for it because most people haven't been going for it, right? When the tide changes and the conventional thing is for most people to go for it, regardless of why that's happening, the things that you felt in your gut are going to change because it was all based off nothing in the first place.
All right, let's go to the Dallas Cowboys, Carolina Panthers. It was 36-28. The Cowboys move to 3-1. The Panthers fall to 3-1. Panthers tacked on, a late touchdown here to get a little bit closer.
It wasn't as close as
2 scores,
36-28.
It was 36-14 into the fourth quarter.
Right.
Panthers score with 9 minutes left, and then with 4:36 left to bring it a little bit closer. I mean, it was still, within a score at the end. But, man, we're seeing Dallas's defense generally play better. And then the big story here from the Panthers' perspective, they were 3-0, hadn't really played anybody.
Yeah.
And they couldn't stop the Cowboys defensively.
This was their first test against a real team, essentially. Like, easy mode's been turned off. Now you got to face a Dallas offense that's actually really good. How does it look? Does the defense still hold up? And I thought, initially, it was doing a good job. They were still getting after them. They were still causing them some problems. They're clearly a really smart team in terms of how they play on defense and some of the things they're dialing up, and timing, like when they choose to send pressure, when they choose to drop guy. Like Brian Burns drops an average of 3 times a game, but they dial up when it happens in a really smart way. Like this time he drops off and gets his hand, gets a pass breakup because of it. But they reached a point in the game where Dallas suddenly realized that, you know what, we can just move these guys. At the line of scrimmage, we have an advantage, and we can just saddle up and start bulldozing a path. So Zeke Elliott has 20 carries for 143 yards. Tony Pollard has 10 for 67. Zeke Elliott, since they've started eating into his workload with Pollard in a meaningful way, as opposed to just, Pollard's going to get a couple of carries here and there and dramatically outplay me, but it doesn't matter because I'm still getting the bulk of it. Over the last couple of weeks, they've actually really eaten into his workload a little bit with Pollard. And it seems that since that point, he's been visibly more impressive. He just looks like he's running better.
Started on Monday Night Football, yeah.
I don't know if that's because he's being spelled more. I don't know if it's because suddenly he realizes that actually, you know what, my workload, my job, the feed Zeke thing is at risk because Pollard's playing really well, or if it's just coincidence. But whatever it is, getting Zeke back at this level, plus Tony Pollard spelling him, plus Dak Prescott in the passing game, this offense is different. So they were able to just wreck Carolina up front, and that was all she wrote. They couldn't stop them.
Yeah, Zeke is running so much better. 5 yards after contact in yesterday's game, actually forcing missed tackles. Remember, he was never really a make you miss type of guy. He was a good one-cut runner. You find the hole and be efficient. I mean, he's never been – I don't think Zeke's a bad player. He's just saddled with that contract where you feel like you have to feed him. Now, it's the third straight game where Dallas has run the ball much better than they had, not only in week 1 against Tampa Bay, but every Dak game last year when it was all Dak, throw for 400 yards. So this further feeds the narrative that Dallas needs the running attack. They run for 245, Sam, 7.2 yards per carry. And Dak only has 22 pass attempts, 4 of which go to the end zone, of course, 4 touchdowns. But yeah, I mean, if you're running the ball at 7.2 yards per clip, including Dak's 4 for 35, yeah, that's a good, efficient rushing attack.
Yes. Anytime you're averaging 7+ yards a run, you're fine. Don't worry about efficiency at that point. Just keep on running.
I don't mind. Again, I don't think you need to strive for balance, but I think it's okay to have – I mean, certainly it's okay. You do want to have some games where you need the running game. There are games where you'll need the running game, and having it be good and efficient is a good thing for the team. So Dallas is definitely playing so much better. From a run game perspective, Dak continues to throw the ball well. I don't think he played as well as the stat line will show. He's had a couple of those games this year, but man, drops a dime into Amari Cooper for a touchdown.
Over C.J. Henderson,
over C.J. Henderson,
new addition. You lose J.C. Horn, who'd allowed 10 yards so far this season. C.J. Henderson comes in, has to try and get up to speed in a week, and suddenly, you got to defend Amari Cooper in the end zone.
Cedric Wilson continues to ball out, in place of Michael Gallup. CeeDee Lamb didn't do much on his 5 targets, but then you get Dalton Schultz too, just becoming a part of the offense. So they've got weapons, they've got a rushing attack. And then defensively,
and an offensive line that's wrecking people.
Yes, Dallas. Look, I made the statement on the show, live on the preview show. Are we coming out of this talking about Dallas, NFC contender, Super Bowl contender, and the whole thing? Are we? They've got the pieces.
Yeah,
right? They've got the pieces in place, right?
Yeah. Why wouldn't they be? I mean, people were starting to talk about Carolina in those terms, and this was their first test, and it the takeaway is actually, you know what, Dallas is way better than Carolina right now.
Yeah, the other, so defensively for Dallas, Trevon Diggs becoming a star before our eyes. Just his ball skills this year. I know interceptions are fickle and they tend to fluctuate in the whole thing, but he is making some ridiculous plays on the ball. 2 more picks in this one as Sam Darnold comes back down to earth just a little bit as well.
Yeah, this was the worst game that Sam Darnold has played as a Carolina Panther. This is the grade that he typically had with the Jets. Weirdly, like him and Daniel Jones have turned into these like rushing threats out of nothing, and not just like that they're a threat to take off and punish you if you're not paying attention, but like they're actually dialing up designed runs all the time for both these guys, like option plays where Darnold is taking the ball, faking the pitch, and then just like cutting up into a gap that emerges because nobody's expecting him to carry the ball.
That is the difference in today's NFL, right? Like the only quarterback, I'm going to do this off the top of my head. The only quarterback that's come into the league the last 5 or 6 years who doesn't necessarily have that ability is what, Jameis? I feel like every other quarterback,
and even
Josh Rosen,
even Jameis, if you actually embraced that, like he clearly is not a particularly mobile quarterback. But if you just said, we're going to run a couple of option plays where like you succeed because nobody's paying attention. Like nobody, literally.
It's probably Goff too.
It's an element of surprise thing. And even Goff gashed the Packers on a zone read play a couple of weeks ago. Like, I think we've reached the point where you remember the idea that you never wanted to have any kind of like rushing option threat of a quarterback because what happens if he gets hurt running the ball? You can't risk that. Like, we can't risk the investment to our quarterback by exposing him to these pointless hits. I think teams have just said, you know what, forget that. Like, they're in danger of getting hit every single play. Like, okay, we don't want them to get hit, but any play, one of our offensive linemen could get whooped, or he can blow the protection, or the running back can get beat. He's getting hit. This is part of football. Let's just actually embrace it and say, we are going to let this guy run the ball, and we'll teach him to protect himself, slide, dive, don't take the hit you don't have to take. But if the gap is there, scoot through it. Like, you're a professional athlete. Let's take advantage of this. Let's not just sacrifice a man in the blocking scheme because you're the quarterback. So all these teams are employing their quarterback as part of the run game. It's not all, Baltimore and Lamar Jackson or Philly and Jalen Hurts, but they're all like using these quarterbacks that are, even the guys that you think of as not good athletes are freaks. Like, Mac Jones got mocked mercilessly for being a pathetic athlete. The dude runs like a 4.7 40. Like, he's not an insignificant level athlete.
On a zone read, I mean, all you have to, if you're just reading one guy and it's like, hey, go run for 10 yards before someone who's not even looking at you catches up to you.
Which is the Jared Goff play.
That's the Goff play.
Right.
That once or twice a game.
But even these ones, it's like, okay, it's not quite as simple as that. But if there's a gap that opens up, chuck yourself into it for 5 yards, and that's your touchdown.
The 2 interceptions, one of them by Diggs. Again, I don't know if this is a trend in the NFL, but he's covering the slot, zone coverage. Darnold misreads it. He's a little under pressure, but we see Jalen Ramsey playing in the slot. We see a lot of top corners moving around, and I don't know, Dallas is really tapping into what Diggs is able to do. He has just been all over the place as far as creating turnovers and making plays. So all that said, he also got beat a bunch as well. I mean, this was his season last year. He showed flashes. You saw the big plays, but he's also given it up as well. He was targeted 8 times, gave up a bunch of first downs. So, but Dallas is creating turnovers defensively. They're a lot better, I think, than they were last year.
I think they've clearly emerged as the best team in the NFC East, which was a question a few weeks ago, right? Who's going to win the East? Maybe it'll be a 2-horse race between Dallas and Washington. Maybe Philly, after that week 1, gets himself into the conversation. Can the Giants run? No, this is like Dallas's division now, unless anybody else changes the way their season looks like it's going, or Dallas changes, like they start collapsing. Like, they should be the best team in the NFC East, and then the question at that point is, where do they place themselves amongst the best in the NFC?
Just to wrap this up too, you mentioned the offensive line for the Cowboys. I don't know, are these games in premium stats yet? Whenever they are, let's see.
A few of them are.
Is Dallas
not
in
this one? No.
This game is not in yet. When this gets in, You have premium stats, 2.0, all a part of your PFF Elite package. Go check out the Cowboys run block grades. Domination from Zach Martin and Tyron Smith and Connor McGovern getting in there and his 10 snaps.
At
and
fullback.
Connor Williams. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, the run blocking grades across the board for the Cowboys, that is what has sparked this rushing attack, right? And you've got Zeke and Pollard running hard. So Dallas just looking a lot more balanced as a team. Not run pass balance, but ability to do it all. All right, let's touch on this Buffalo win quickly. Buffalo 40, Texans 0.
40 it is.
Davis Mills is who you thought he was.
I knew I gave him too much credit last week.
A Nathan Peterman, like 11 for 21 for 87 yards and 4 picks.
And a fumble. Like the ball just fell out of his hand because it was raining.
It was.
The four picks doesn't even do it justice because there's a fumble in there as well. It was worse than anything else. I gave him an inch, and he took a mile and a half and burned it to the ground. Yeah, this was bad. It was bad, Steve. Top to bottom.
It's another one of those, like Buffalo's defense is starting to do ridiculously special things. Like they had not given up a pass of 20-plus yards, the only team in the league that hasn't done that yet. Then they come off this one, and it's one of the worst, one of the best defensive performances, one of the worst quarterbacking performances you've seen. Buffalo's pass defense, ridiculous so far this year, statistically. We'll see if they can keep it up, as the schedule gets more difficult. But, they face Big Ben, they face Jacoby Brissett, they face Davis Mills, and who's one other team they've played. But anyway, Buffalo they took care of business. This is what really good teams do.
This game got so out of hand that Mitchell Trubisky got on and got himself a rushing touchdown.
The more the Matt Nagy narrative goes.
Stop it.
I'm just saying. Some team's going to look at what Trubisky looked like in the preseason, where he looks pretty good.
Stop it
and
now.
Overrated. Do you have anything else to add to this? Josh Allen had a pick. He played a pretty good game. Did put the ball in harm's way a couple times. Tough passing conditions with the torrential rain.
Yeah, this is one of those games where I don't think you can take a ton out of it in terms of how Josh Allen played. Actually, just generally, 40 to nothing.
Throw the ball right through a line. He got away with.
I know
the grade's not going to be great again, even though the stats are, because he keeps trying to throw the ball through linebackers.
Yeah, which in fairness, if anyone's going to be able to throw a ball through a linebacker, it's Josh Allen.
This one's so bad. This was in the end zone.
Yeah.
Right
Buffalo is really impressive, though. This was the kind of game where, you're expected to win, but they really just went out there and just put the boot on the throat of Houston and kept on squeezing until it was done.
Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, 14 carries apiece, very efficient from a run game standpoint. So just, I say take care of business a lot, but that's all Buffalo had to do. That's what they did. Took care of business.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got on this game, Sam.
When are we getting Tyrod Taylor back? Because he's got
to miss at least one more game.
Right, it's the IR, so he's got at least 3 weeks done.
Tyrod makes them feisty.
Yeah, they were not a bad team with Tyrod at quarterback. He was playing legitimately well, but with Davis Mills, it's just not. It's done.
All right, let's go to what's next on my list here. Oh, yeah, Giants and Saints.
Yeah.
What a weird game, man. Giants 27, Saints 21. Giants get their first win. A couple things at play here. Daniel Jones continues to play really good football. Just throwing that out there.
Really good and critically above that 80 threshold where you owe me lunch.
What was the bet?
That if Daniel Jones finishes the season with a PFF grade in the 80s, you owe me lunch.
You're off to a good start.
I am. He's there.
It used to be the quarter poll, they used to call it, right after 4 games. Now it's not.
Okay.
Once the first quarter ends in week 5, we'll hit the quarter poll of the season.
After week 5. Okay. Well, after
first quarter of week 5.
That's when
the first quarter
of when you want to take
the season ends.
Okay.
Again, the negative with the 17-game schedule is you can't split the season into nice fourths anymore.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's the big problem.
Well, for the purposes of this conversation, I'm just going to go ahead and assume he plays the first quarter next week the same as he's played the rest of the season so far. Right now, he's got a PFF grade of 86.9.
Yeah.
Not only is that above 80, that gives me some wiggle room. He can have a bad game in here, and I'm still laughing.
Jones is looking good. I said it was a weird game because it felt like the Saints were in control for a lot of it, and the two Giants touchdowns. It's a bomb to John Ross
Yes.
freshly activated.
Do you want to
in a bomb to Saquon Barkley?
Do you want to take some form of victory lap over John Ross? You who's like, I would sign him every offseason just for this play?
I would. You signed John Ross because he won this game for you. He is a legitimate deep threat once every 10 routes.
Yeah.
And he ran a nice comeback route too. As I take this victory lap, I am picturing next week he's going to stop on a route. Daniel Jones is going to throw an interception, and we're going to put it in as 4RMC. Dig route.
People don't know what that is.
I'm going to explain
Okay.
it. 4 route, dig route, miscommunication. We're going to chalk it up to the receiver. He's probably going to fumble. He's probably going to drop a pass. But for now, John Ross, legitimate deep threat. I'll sign him every year because flipping the field and picking up 50-yard touchdowns is extremely valuable, and John Ross has that.
Yeah. I think it was Derek Klassen and Mike Golick Jr. on Twitter yesterday that were talking about how John Ross is essentially transitioning into Ted Ginn's career, right? It's like top pick, incredible speed, get him to the NFL, and it's like, he doesn't really do that much well. But then for the rest of his life is like a viable deep threat that will score a bunch of touchdowns, probably drop some passes, make a few mistakes, but becomes that kind of like budget Deshaun Jackson, who's just a valuable part of your offense for a decade, or like not your offense for a decade, several different offenses for a decade. Like whenever you get a team, it's like we have a pretty good receiving core, but nobody here can run faster than 4.6. We bring in John Ross. That's what's going to happen, I feel. The funny thing is,
I'll be that GM in a couple of years.
There's
bringing in John
absolutely
Ross.
no way in hell that the touchdown he scored was actually like it wasn't scored until he fell on it in the end zone after he lost it.
I don't want to hear your details.
He caught the ball, the defender forced it out before the goal line pretty clearly, and then he was the only person that seemed to care and jumped on it again, and I'm almost 100% sure that the officials at some point when they were going to look at it realized that, you know what, rather than trying to find an angle where we see down the goal line and figure out when this ball came out, he fell on it anyway, so it's a touchdown. Like, he definitely caught it. So all we're doing is deciding whether or not it came out, whether or not it's a touchdown because he crossed the goal line with the ball in his hands, or whether it's a touchdown because he fell on his own fumble. So who cares? That's what I think happened.
Yeah, it's a touchdown for John Ross, even though it may not have been legit. That's fine. Anyway, Daniel Jones is playing good football. The other touchdown was Saquon Barkley running straight up the sideline, right past Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah.
Why does Lattimore? Why is it Lattimore just locks up Mike Evans and these other big receivers, and then he just has these lulls against? Well, there's a running back running past me,
and there was like no trickery involved in this play, right? It's like the announcers were like, "Oh, the wheel route." There was no wheel. He just ran by him. Like he just didn't care about this play that they were trying to invent reasons that the cornerback would not be there. Like would have just stopped running and watched the running back run clean past him down the sideline. They're like, oh, it must have been a wheel, or there must have been like a pump fake or whatever it was. No, Saquon just runs past Marshawn Lattimore, who doesn't move with him, just carries, like sits, and suddenly realizes after about 5 yards that, he's gone, and I'm not getting back to him. Touchdown.
When they got into overtime, Saquon fumbles in overtime, but the Giants recover. And then he looked really quick on that touchdown, man. That was a good touchdown run.
Ben tells me that the Ross play was ruled a fumble touchdown, so they didn't give him
So it was. So did Jones get? Jones has a passing touchdown for that. Shouldn't he not have one?
Don't ask questions that I don't have the answer to.
So that should not be a touchdown for Daniel Jones then.
Look, I'm just relaying what Ben told me, and Ben might be lying. So
Ben certainly could be wrong. Ben also sleeps like 3 hours a night on Sunday nights.
Yeah, but they're earlier because he's on British time. So he's fine now.
Yeah, but he still only sleeps like he's probably tired. Is my point.
British hours. It's fine.
Okay. Anyway, again, the Giants. Daniel Jones ends up with 402 passing yards. Kenny Golladay, he makes some big plays too. He doesn't look that fast, but he's just.
Well, he isn't that fast.
I know. He just doesn't feel explosive, but he's making big plays. This is why you add play. This is the playmaker game, right? Golladay gets 6 for 116. Kadarius Toney That's why you draft him
It's
in the
about
first
freaking
round.
time they started giving that guy the ball some more.
He had 78 yards. John Ross takes the top off the defense. That's why you had John Ross. Saquon has 74 yards through the air because of the 54-yard touchdown, as we said. Evan Ingram catches some passes. Kyle Rudolph. This was good, man, as far as, using those guys in the pass game. And then on the other side, it's another Jameis only drops back a handful of times. Bunch of big-time throws. One's negated. Bomb for a touchdown. But he was dropping some in there. Jameis has another really good game, but it's a run-heavy attack, and they just ultimately didn't put enough points on the board. And it was also hurt by Jameis throws a negated touchdown, and then the next play, Taysom Hill comes in and chucks an interception. But we can't completely trash Taysom because he became Marshawn Lynch for 2 touchdowns. What was this game?
Taysom Hill's grade alone is madness in this game. It's overall he ended up with like an 82, but it comes about because of a 90+ run grade, a blocking grade that's not great. Like, it was just all over the place. But Taysom Hill went full on Marshawn Lynch beast mode twice. Just ran the hell over every member of the New York Giants defense on his way to the end zone. And it felt like they were using him as like a red zone quarterback, like almost what we talked about, the 2-quarterback system that I kept predicting in the preseason. It hasn't quite happened for any team, but there's a couple that are like flirting with it or skirting the edges of a genuine 2-quarterback system. This felt like they were like, you know what, Jameis has got a pretty good chance of just like heaving the ball at people, so we'll put Taysom in there.
And Taysom heaves the ball at people. James
That's
Bradbury.
the downside to that plan.
I think James Bradbury beaten on a big post, on a deep post, and Taysom throws it behind him for the interception. But the 2 runs were just ridiculous. It looked like the plays were over, and Taysom just comes out the other side and he's in the end zone. So a lot of good things from the Saints offensively, but you're going to look at the Saints defense and say, okay, defensively can't give up those big plays. And that's a coverage unit, coming out of week 1 that was just outstanding against the Packers. Didn't allow anything there. Paulson Adebo, he finally really falls off a cliff in this one. He got torched. Lattimore, we had mentioned, not a good day for the Saints secondary. Yeah,
to be fair to Paulson Adebo, it's just not a speed matchup. He's winning like 1-on-1 with John Ross deep down the field. Like, you can't. I mean, you don't have the speed to deal with that.
Thank you for admitting John Ross is just a mismatched weapon.
Well, John Ross runs a 4.24, and Paulson Adebo doesn't. So that's going to be an issue. Sneaky part of the Giants, their offensive line has been okay.
Yeah.
That was a huge weakness for them. But Andrew Thomas, all of a sudden, 1 pressure in this game, 1 pressure the week before, 2. He hasn't given up more than 2 in a game this season. Like, he has taken pretty significant strides forward after what was a rough rookie season. And remember, the preseason wasn't great either. It was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, like Andrew Thomas hasn't taken a step. But, yeah, looking good.
So far in the regular season, he's been good. And the rest of that offensive line hasn't been bad either. Like, Billy Price, shockingly, was the only member of that offensive line yesterday whose pass blocking grade was pretty rough. The rest of them are holding up okay. And with those weapons that the Giants have on offense, that's like Daniel Jones. My concern for him is that this year he was going to take a step forward, but it might not be obvious because the offensive line was so bad and the scheme is not amazing. And we're going to come out of this being like, what is Daniel Jones really bringing to the table?
Yeah.
But if the offensive line is playing like it is and those receivers are as good as they look, that is a platform on which Daniel Jones can actually get some stuff done.
All right, let's go to the Chiefs-Eagles game. Chiefs 42, Eagles 30. Chiefs kept trying to pull away, and they did. But the Eagles battled back. They hung tough. Patrick Mahomes finishes with 5 touchdowns and a pick. 2 little shovel pass touchdowns.
Underarm. We're getting to the behind the back one. I mean,
you think behind the back's coming?
So do you remember there was a training camp video?
Mahomes is going to break the all-time touchdown. He's got 5 shovel pass touchdowns in the NFL the last 2 years.
Yeah. There was a training camp video where he was like practicing various shovel passes. There was the regular one. There was the underarm thing. There's a behind the back one. It's coming. It's going to happen. And sadly, it's not even the first time it's happened because somebody found a Sonny Jurgensen play. Jorgensen? Is a hard or soft J?
I would say Jorgensen.
Okay. Sonny. gave a behind-the-back pass out of like a sack. He's like in the grasp and flings a pass behind his back to a receiver. That might have been the single best comp I've ever heard in the history of humanity on hindsight. Zach Robinson.
No, he said Sammy Baugh.
Oh, was it Sammy Baugh?
Yeah.
Maybe it was Sammy.
It was probably Sammy that made.
Might have been Sammy that made the
maybe
the
a blend
behind the
of
back pass.
Sammy and Sonny J.
Maybe.
Could be.
Anyway, whoever it is has done it before, so Mahomes won't even be the first, but it will be like this is the first time this has ever happened when he does it.
Chiefs offense in general, not really stoppable in this one. I mean, they ran for over 6 per carry. Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran for 102 on 14 carries with a long of 17. I mean, he was just they were very efficient as far as the run game goes. Mahomes remains a very good scrambler, picks up a couple first downs on key third downs when he's got to scramble. And that was just a Tyreek Hill takes over game.
Yes.
I mean, deep ball, getting behind the defense, little curl that he turns into a dig where he just outruns the rest of the defense, almost takes it in the end zone. I mean, Tyreek was unstoppable in this one.
Tyreek Hill does to NFL athletes what like good athletes do to regular human beings. It's insane. There was a pass where he got to the pylon, didn't quite turn it into a touchdown. They took it away from him, right? But it was like a dig route, and he catches the ball, and he's like, if you freeze frame it, it's Tyreek Hill with the ball moving to his right, and he's
on the other side of the field.
Yeah,
right?
But he's in the middle of a triangle of defenders. Like when you freeze it, he's in this little triangle, and there's a safety to his left, there's a guy trying to catch him from behind, and there's a dude sort of to the right, further towards the line of scrimmage. But they have him like penned in. And if you freeze frame it, not only do you know they're not tackling him, but you know it's not even going to be close. He's going to catch this ball. He's going to run all the way around the free safety and just get his way towards the end zone. Like the only way anybody has a shot of stopping him is to take the angle straight to the pylon, forget trying to stop him where he is. Like the number of athletes that are able to run around the long way around a fast player it's tiny. It's almost nobody does that. And like that's what happens if you're just a guy in a rec league and you come up against a real athlete and like, oh no, this is like a different level of thing. Tyreek Hill does that to NFL players. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the quickness and speed, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it. I mean, then you have the Eagles in the tight red zone trying to he's the inside receiver, and they're trying to cover him with a linebacker. It was an easy touchdown. I mean, that's not great. Yeah. Yeah. It's just so tough to account. As much as we say that the Chiefs are top heavy with Tyreek and Kelsey, it's still really tough to completely account for them on every single play. And here's where the Chiefs are really good. The times that you don't completely account for them, right? As soon as Tyreek has one-on-one coverage and the safety's not really in the picture, Mahomes throwing the deep ball to him. And it's not often. But when it's there, they're taking it. And that was this game where Tyreek completely took over. Other side of the ball, I'm pretty impressed with Jalen Hurts again. Look, he had some bad plays in there as well. He missed some throws, but I think it's funny. 2 of his best throws of the year are just straight go balls where his receiver ran out of bounds, but he put the ball in a really good spot, and we're going to give him credit for such plays. Devontae did it yesterday, kind of forced out by the corner, but Jalen Hurts battling as a passer. The Eagles don't want to have him drop back 57 times per game, but in this game where you have to just keep coming back and keep fighting against the Chiefs, I thought he did a pretty nice job.
Yeah, he did. I mean, this is probably what you would expect Jalen Hurts to be in terms of, he's making some mistakes that I guess I doubt very much whether you're going to get those out of his game, just the way he plays, but he's making a lot of positive plays so far as well. Like, this is not a bad team, and when you consider how much they've been hurt in terms of injuries, like one of the things that I think made Philadelphia look kind of impressive early in the season, like the first week essentially, was hey, this offensive line is good again, and their defensive line is really good. They're suddenly like dominant in the trenches on both sides of the ball, and that lets Jalen Hurts just do what he does and not have to worry too much about the pressure. But all of a sudden, they've lost like multiple players up front. Brandon Brooks goes down. Jordan Mailata goes down. Andre Dillard comes in, who, first round pedigree, but hasn't really worked out, which is why he's a backup to Mailata in the first place. And they just, they're not as good when they have to go to those backups. So if Philadelphia had a healthy offensive line, if they had their starting five out there all season, I'd actually be quite optimistic about how good this team can be. But without those things, it just gets harder for Jalen Hurts to carry the load by himself.
Yeah, I think you're continuing to just get more information on him, though, too. I mean, I think you can – I'm more optimistic about Jalen Hurts' future so far this season. I'll say that.
Yeah, but the problem they're going to have is that Philadelphia has a really good chance of ending up with like one of the worst records in the NFL, which in addition to the extra pick they're getting for Carson Wentz and the extra pick they already have, like they're going to be in position. It's going to be very hard to turn down a quarterback where they're picking.
It's going to be really tough to look at the quarterbacks in the draft and say, I think these guys are better than Jalen Hurts. I don't know
Maybe.
I don't know if the Spencer Rattlers and Sam Howells and Malik Willises. I mean, Malik Willis will be intriguing as he jumped to the top of the PFF quarterback rankings as far as the draft goes. The real issue with the Eagles, they still look like they're rebuilding. That again, you're playing the Chiefs, but the defense got smoked. They got smoked against the Cowboys on Monday Night Football as well. So just something to, they look like they were supposed to be in rebuilding mode, and their defense kind of looks like it right now.
Chiefs' offensive line is really interesting. So obviously they overhauled the whole group in the offseason. They appear to have hit on Creed Humphrey, who looks good. They also
92.5 grade yesterday.
Yeah.
Mostly through the run game.
They also appear to have hit on Trey Smith, the 6th-rounder that they got who fell in the draft because of like a medical condition. What was it? Like a heart condition that had him like taking medication in perpetuity, right? Like it's like a long-term thing. He has to stay medicated, and it was almost like teams just bailed on the idea of having to deal with that. Like, we don't know what this means. And I think part of the issue is he can't practice all the time. Like there's some sort of pitch count essentially he has to always be on. So I think a bunch of teams just went, all right, we don't want any part of this. We're not even going to get into it. But the ones that did, Kansas City, grabbed him in the 6th round. He's one of their best offensive linemen right out of the gate.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. Again, Premium Stats 2.0. Go check out the run blocking grades. A really nice job by Kansas City there. Orlando Brown struggling as a pass blocker so far. Both tackles, not great in this game. Mahomes was really good as well. Maybe not 5 touchdowns good, underhands. But I liked the bomb to Tyreek. I mean, it's the end of the game. Eagles are taking some chances. Tyreek is isolated on a safety. This is the thing. I said it's tough to have a plan for Tyreek every single snap, and the Eagles just look like they had zero plan on a lot of snaps. That is an issue. Oh, yeah, go ahead. We'll just put a safety on him. That's why Mahomes reached back, threw a bomb. Look, when Tyreek's uncoverable, you take advantage of it. So he finished with 11 for 186 and 3 scores. Story of the game right there.
Yeah. I mean, this was a game where the offense, the scheme was doing well, and Tyreek Hill. Like, at that point, you're in good shape.
All right, Colts 27, Dolphins 17. Colts get their first win, man.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy to think about.
Unexciting game.
It was.
Your boy Jacoby Brissett.
Yes.
Not great. 5 turnover-worthy plays in this one.
Sure.
Including a rough fumble in the pocket. Or outside the pocket. Doesn't matter where he was. It was a rough fumble.
There are plays where you wonder just what on earth is going through Jacoby Brissett's brain, where he's, like, it was like 3 seconds ago where you initially got pressure and started to move, and it's not like you're Michael Vick. What did you think was going to happen on this play? It's not even like I use the term Christian Ponder syndrome a lot, where it's essentially describing a situation where college quarterbacks come into the NFL and never manage to work out that they're no longer a better athlete than the defensive linemen that are chasing them down.
Right.
Because in college they typically are. Baker Mayfield has a lot of this, right? Where in college, Baker Mayfield is a better athlete than most of the defenders trying to chase him down.
How about his little high step move yesterday?
But in the NFL, he isn't, right? So there was a play yesterday where Baker Mayfield tried to, like, juke Janelle Hunter in the open field. Like, we'll throw him a step, and then I'll cut inside him, and I'll make the 2 yards I need for the first down, and I'll look like a superhero. And Janelle Hunter just, like, hog ties him, immediately puts him to the ground. You're like, no, that's not happening at this level. I am a super freak. You're just a dude who used to be athletic. So Brissett doesn't quite have that, in that Like, he doesn't seem to be blissfully unaware of the fact that he's no longer a better athlete than all these guys. He just doesn't seem to care. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to escape the grasp of the defender, and then I'm just going to like wander around back here for a while and invite yet more pressure and eventually like die under this hail of bullets from all the defenders closing in on me. It's bizarre to watch, but this is why I'm a lifelong Jacoby Brissett fan.
Yeah.
The glorious death involved in his plays.
You must have loved this. I mean, he had 5 turnover-worthy plays. None of them showed up on the interception stat sheet. A couple fumbles though. Including the one I told you, scrambling out and just trying to throw it. He hit linebackers or safeties in the hands 3 other times that all fell incomplete.
Look,
so
he throws a very uncatchable interception.
He does. So his passer rating ended up pretty good. Colts should throw to Mo Alley Cox a little bit more.
Yeah, like a lot more.
A couple touchdowns for him. I mean, look, I keep talking about it was a good win for the Colts, about playmakers emerging for them. Michael Pittman's done some nice things this year. Zach Pascal, Mo Alley Cox could be a guy that helps bridge that gap if they could target him a little bit more.
People, by the way, were like tweeting me as if like they were proved right by the fact that Jacoby Brissett. I said that there wasn't an awful lot of difference functionally between Brissett and Tua at this point in their careers. You know, the Dolphins might not have downgraded, losing Tua for a while and going to Brissett. Now, this was a bad Jacoby Brissett game, as you say. There were a bunch of turnover-worthy plays in there. There's also a bunch of plays where God knows what you're doing back there for 5 minutes while you know there's pressure coming. On the other hand, it still wasn't that much worse than anything we've seen from Tua. Like, Brissett right now for this season has a grade of, he's
low 60s.
Yeah, which is
it's my guess.
Pretty much where you expect Tua to be. So I maintain that there's not an awful lot of difference between them. This was just a bad Brissett game.
No, Brissett's at 72
right
now, 69.9 passing grade. Remember, he graded pretty well against Las Vegas,
right? Despite
the dink and dunk stat line. This was a weird one because the stat line was actually pretty good and wasn't really deserved for Brissett. Yeah, I mean, look, Dolphins, small margin of error with their offense and just their offensive line. They couldn't get much going from a run game perspective. The Colts, they didn't pass block very well either, but Jonathan Taylor, really nice game there. 16 carries, over 100 yards, had a really nice touchdown early in the game. So, yeah, Colts get back on track.
And Colts still can't just catch a break and get their offensive line. Like, just the 5 guys we want starting, give us the 5 guys healthy for a given game, please.
Yeah, it doesn't look the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, but yet we're 4 games into this, and they have yet to have that starting 5 line together. Now, okay, that's just something you have to deal with. There's a bunch of other teams that are in that situation as well. But evidently for the Colts, it is a problem when they don't have those starting 5.
Dolphins' offensive line is still a problem.
Well, Austin that's a problem for a different reason.
Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg starts at right tackle, both grade in the 40s. Only offensive lineman to grade over 60 is Robert Hunt at right guard.
Yeah.
So it's all a problem for the Dolphins. They've got the Bucs next week on the road, so it's not trending in the right direction.
Well, at least it's not a long road trip.
It's not. It's true. It's not a long road trip for the Dolphins. All right, what do we have next here? Here we go. Washington 34, Falcons 30. The Falcons still can't close games out, man.
Despite having the best player in the NFL in Cordero Patterson, who it turns out is amazing.
3 touchdowns.
Running
back / wide receiver hybrid.
I think it was Stephen Ruiz of The Ringer now who tweeted, like, how ridiculous is it that Arthur Smith has managed to unlock the secret of using Cordero Patterson to the best of his abilities, but can't figure out how to use Kyle Pitts in the best way possible. Patterson, actually, when you don't need him to be a number 1 wide receiver, is just a genuinely amazing playmaker.
Yeah.
He now, because he's played wide receiver, has that Ty Montgomery thing of being good enough at a wide receiver when you treat him as a running back to just torch you. Like, he went one-on-one and mossed a cornerback for one of his touchdowns. He's incredible out of the backfield because he was a wide receiver and can make all those kinds of plays. And he's got, like, the kick return skills help with the running game as well. He's just genuinely really, really good.
He is. It's a really nice complementary piece to have. Yeah, my team would have Cordero Patterson and John Ross. The funny thing about him as a receiver though, it's the same thing. Like if you ask him to run a nuanced route tree,
Yes.
there's the nuance isn't there, right? Like I need you at this exact depth and win at the catch point and like all these things. But you did yesterday. Like it's just inconsistent.
But it's also why you can still split them out and say just go run a fade, because that's idiot proof, right? You don't need to have nuance to run a fade. You can just go like run down the sideline, don't get squeezed to the sideline and moss the corner. Like there's nothing complex or like precise about that. You just need to do the thing that you're good at and beat the dude trying to cover you. So he can do that stuff. It's just you don't necessarily want him running, like a 15-yard speed out or whatever. Like don't ask him to do the things that are very specific and nuanced to being like legitimate route running wide receivers. But he becomes this like offensive playmaker. And right now he's by far the best offensive playmaker in this offense.
Yeah, they're trying to get Kyle Pitts involved a little bit, but it's not completely there yet. By the way, thanks to everybody on YouTube, everybody that's live on YouTube. Be sure to hit that thumbs up. Always good, helping us go viral. Our Monday review shows have been big hits on the YouTube. Matt Ryan finally played a decent game. Threw the moon ball. You love that moon ball to Patterson.
It's a good thing that Patterson has experience as a return man, because that ball was basically a punt.
The key there is both of these defenses. I mean, defense might not matter according to our analytics folks, but it certainly does when the football team and the Falcons are out there, because it's bad. It's just bad.
I mean,
and it creates good offense.
I tweeted during the week that the Washington football team had the fewest missed tackles in the NFL. So this was, remember, their defense been getting gashed the first 3 weeks.
And they were tackling well.
Yes. I was like, and they have the lowest number of missed tackles. What happens if they start to miss tackles? Like, this thing could get worse. And then, like, Mike Davis runs over about 7 Washington players for his score. It did get worse. The most amazing thing to me in this game is that Taylor Heineke is Ryan Fitzpatrick. He is Ryan Fitzpatrick with a Gillette sponsorship. Like, they are the same human being.
And then he shaves.
It went full Fitzpatrick late in this game. Did you like the absolute prayer that he heaved up into the end zone where Terry McLaurin goes and makes the play?
McLaurin's fantastic.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like he, under pressure, just literally just heaves it up. Like at a corner or at a safety or whoever it was, at a defender. And then McLaurin, like from behind him, basically runs through and saves it, turns it into a touchdown. But it's not like... The thing that makes him Fitzpatrick is that there's always some good in there as well. Like he threw a really nice dime, like a cover 2 hole shot, perfect pass, beautiful.
And they're nice because he really doesn't have a great arm, much like Fitz. So to make those throws, it's got to be pristine accuracy and anticipation.
And then the final like game-winning play, another perfect Fitz of just like madness, where escapes, rolls to his left, and then J.D. McKissick like leaks out to the right-hand side, and he throws it all the way back across the formation, and you're like, McKissick has one guy to beat. If he beats that one guy, this is a big play. So it's Deion Jones, and he just gets around Deion Jones, and then it's like a scoot to the end zone. It's just speed to the end zone.
It was great. I mean, it was for a game that probably wasn't as that attractive on the schedule as far as where these teams are, and it ended up being an exciting game. I thought Matt Ryan would be a little bit better in this game, and he was against, you're in the dome, you get the football team's defense. As much as we expected their defense to regress, the football team, though, I mean, it seems like they can still move the ball a little bit with Heineke.
Yeah.
So they got to be a little bit better defensively. And the Falcons have to find a way to be a little bit better defensively. Those are going to be the questions for those teams going forward.
I like Washington's offense. I think it's still got ability, but that defense is just a wreck right now.
All right, what did I just tweet out that we're doing next? Football team. Oh yeah, Seahawks and 49ers.
Okay.
Seahawks do not fall to 1-3. They're up to 2-2 now. We've got Jimmy G getting hurt for the 49ers.
The door opens.
We've got Trey Lance. It sounds like our rivals here on Good Morning Football, Ian Rappaport. We're head to head.
Okay.
With GMFB.
Who's our insider?
Can we get Doug Kite on here with some information? We need an insider.
Cousin Doug.
Their insider, Ian Rappaport. It sounds like Jimmy Garoppolo's calf is going to keep him out a few weeks here.
Yeah.
Calf was the injury I haven't had a minor league baseball story in a while.
Or yeah, at least a show.
They put you on the when you're like the last man on the roster, as I was in AAA with the Mariners. They put you on what you call the Phantom DL, right?
Okay.
So it's just a fake DL. So the manager asked me, he's like, what do you want your injury to be? Because they didn't want me on the roster. I was like pitcher 13 out of 12.
Right.
So I had to go on the 10-day. It's not the DL anymore. It's the injured list. So he's like, what do you want your injury to be? He's like, we usually use calf. I was like, yeah, give me the calf.
This isn't like highly illegal. This is just.
Oh, it's illegal.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. It is.
Mariners, the 2010 Mariners might get fined now.
Oh, perfect.
For this.
Great.
I was on the DL with the calf.
Yeah.
So I can relate to Jimmy G here. But I recovered in 10 days
Yeah.
when finally someone else got called up or sent down and I got to pitch again.
It's probably an easier recovery if your injury is fake.
It was real. It's real.
Yeah.
Because part of the things, too, is like, if other teams are going to pick you up, they're going to see the report, they're going to wonder about your calf. Like, just give me the calf. I'll be okay.
Did you have like a spiel prepared if somebody did pick you up?
Yeah,
like, how's the calf injury?
I would have sold out the Mariners.
Yeah, it's all right.
Phantom DL.
Yeah.
It was fake.
It's fine, actually.
Perfectly healthy.
Right.
They had to make something up. So I don't think this is Jimmy G. He's out a couple weeks.
Right.
The phantom calf. Trey Lance came in. At one point, he was 1 for 5 for 76 yards and a touchdown.
Yes.
It was the busted coverage to Deebo Samuel. But look, the Seahawks played a lot better defensively in this one. The Niners defense looked like this was weird early, right? The Niners get up 7-0. It's 7-0 for a while. And there was a point where the Seahawks had like negative 14 passing yards in the second quarter. But then Russ just started to become Russ. What a ridiculous touchdown. Avoiding the sack and scrambling out and making a play. I mean, that was just Russ being Russ. And that was part of the reason why I think I picked Seattle in this game, even though a lot of things pointed toward the Niners, that the Mariners, Seahawks playmakers would just take over.
Yeah, they did.
I used to play in Seattle just like Russ.
Yeah. It's pretty much the same guy.
Same guys. We both play baseball. We do football. It's relatable.
Yeah. That Russell Wilson touchdown was pretty ridiculous. Not only does he like spin out of the grass, but immediately like reverses and ends up going in the right direction for like the only route that had any shot of doing anything.
I know.
Throws it in, touchdown, simple. Like they were saying, in the broadcast that he has no peer when the play breaks down. And you're like, in a league where Patrick Mahomes exists and, Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers. He kind of has some peers. On the other hand,
Tom Brady outside the pocket.
Plays like that, I kind of get why you say that in the moment. You know what I mean? He is incredible when things like that happen, and there are very few players that can match him in those kinds of situations. And ultimately he was good enough that this functioned. But what do you make of Trey Lance? What are we going to get now?
I think you'll get a little bit of what you got yesterday. Some of the throws were off by a mile. And I think his touch needs work.
9 for 18. Okay, yeah. There's a drop in there as well, but adjusted completion rate was 62.5.
He got better. I don't know how much you chalk up to the nerves. We see veteran quarterbacks do that all the time. Like veteran quarterbacks miss throws. I'm not going to extrapolate a couple really ugly misses early on from Trey Lance and say he can't throw the ball. But when he came out, accuracy was his biggest concern. So I think and all that said, Garoppolo was missing throws like crazy these last few weeks.
Yeah.
So it might not look that much different. I'm expecting, though, Trey Lance to run the ball 8, 10, 12 times a game, maybe more. He was 7 for 41 yesterday, all told. He's going to run 8, 10, 12 times in the designed running game. I think the Niners' run game, which has been a little up and down this year, back on track. That is your strength, right? You've got 2 of the better run-blocking tackles in the NFL with Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey. You've got Kyle Shanahan. You have Trey Lance. He was the best pure runner in the draft, I think. Just put the ball into your arm and run the ball and find open holes and all that stuff. So that's a part of the offense. That'll create more open throws for him. And he's got an absolute cannon for that intermediate level. And then, just there'll be some misses. There'll be some inconsistency, but I think it'll be a better offense probably.
And I am excited just to see all of the stuff that they're going to do with him in the run game. We saw a little bit of it yesterday where they threw him out there and it was all runs right away. And you're like, okay, it's going to be some interesting stuff to watch.
And remember the creativity. So in 2019, I wrote a whole article about how Shanahan's offense had evolved, right? And it was like outside zone, outside zone, outside zone. And that year they just started running more power and counter. Now it's it's zone read stuff, right? It's zone game but it's also the power and counter stuff, right? So you're talking on any given play, they can run wide zone with the quarterback as a keeper. They can run power, which is one backside puller. They can run counter, which is two backside pullers. You can run that either way. So they just have so many more options with the run game with Trey Lance under center. And you still have Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and whatever they want to get out of Brandon Ayuk when they want to, and Juszczyk and all that stuff. It's a lot of difficult guys to cover. And say what you want about Garoppolo. Again, he's been inefficient this year. He's missed far more throws than he should have, but the Niners offense overall has been decent, right? So
yeah,
there's more there.
That's the really intriguing part about all this is with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, even when he's not playing well, this offense moves the ball a lot, and it's efficient in terms of yards per attempt and all those kinds of things. Like Kyle Shanahan got Nick Mullins with the same yards per attempt figure as Aaron Rodgers. Like this offense moves the ball regardless of who's a quarterback. So any uptick in talent at the quarterback position surely only helps that. So you go from Nick Mullins to Jimmy Garoppolo, it's a step forward. You go from Jimmy Garoppolo, now all of a sudden you've got Trey Lance in there who brings you this extra dimension in the run game. So like Lance may make a ton of mistakes and may put the ball in harm's way and all these kinds of things, but they should be able to move the ball like a lot because they do with everybody.
Yeah, so that's my feeling. I'm intrigued by Trey Lance. I will also say the Twitter folks, the people that want, got to put Trey Lance in there, like you didn't just call for Justin Fields and see the worst game you've ever seen offensively. Yeah, so just, expectation should be reasonable here. No. But I think there's an explosive element to the 49ers offense now that I think is just higher. It's just a higher explosive, maybe less consistent, but a more explosive offense potentially. Seahawks, again, played much better defensively. I thought their underneath coverage far better. The blown coverage on the 76-yarder aside, the underneath stuff was a lot better than it was previously. Again, Russ kind of salvaged things on a couple plays, but it's not like this offense was humming, really. Did some nice things on the ground at times. Alex Collins had a really nice run. I mean, they just show flashes there. The other thing that always stands out is just the metamorphosis of DK Metcalf into you just isolate him on a linebacker and let him run with a little two-way go. Like, what is happening to DK Metcalf? Expanding his skill set, which is really impressive given his size and his history in three-cone testing.
There's a degree to which it doesn't matter how fast you're actually moving, changing directions because he's so huge, right?
Yeah.
So, the thing about a three-cone is that if you're just running slowly, it's a problem. But in the NFL, your three-cone, when you're running a route, like if you run a little whip route or an option, there's a dude that's now behind you. So my point is, even if he's doing it slowly, the sheer size of the man means that you have there's a long way to go in order for you to get past him to do anything with it, right? So he can just, by essentially just putting his body between you and the football, even if he's not moving quickly, it blocks you out and you can't get anywhere near the ball. And if he then accelerates quickly in a straight line, you're toast.
So DK Metcalf, look, I mean, I liked the role that he had in the previous offense where it's outside vertical threat, run some slants. I mean, the slant is kind of the same thing, right? Just get your body between you and the defender.
Then the two steps you take where you're accelerating, you gain separation.
It is intriguing to me, though, that he can be more of he can play the possession game as well, which isn't be more of a short area threat right now. And it just expands Seattle's offense. I still think they're figuring out. I don't know. Would you look at Seattle? By the way, Russ is his passer ratings through the roof, but he's taken so many sacks and had. It's not like it's the most efficient Seattle offense we've ever seen. He just hasn't thrown interceptions, so the passer rating's great, and they've created some big plays. Are they going to be like the Bucs last year though, where they're kind of trudging through, figure out where the pieces fit, and they could be in the second half of the season? Because you've got Russ at the helm, you still have these great playmakers. All of a sudden, they're far more efficient and better in the second half than the first half.
I don't feel them. I don't think that the logical progression is the same because there are fewer new pieces. Like, the thing about the Bucs is everything there was essentially new, right? You had Brady, you had Gronk, you had Brady and Gronk meshing with Arians, you had Antonio Brown coming in, even the guys that had been there for a while in terms of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin were new to Brady and to, so everything was new, and inevitably that was going to take some time to gel and figure out where the meeting point of all these things were. In Seattle, most of it is the same. They've brought in a new offensive mind to help change what they were doing, but effectively everything else is kind of the same. Like, okay, maybe Dwight Eskridge comes in when he gets healthy and adds something to it, but I don't see necessarily the logical progression to we are trying to find our feet right now, and eventually 8 weeks in we'll figure out where all the wrinkles are, and now we'll be cooking. I don't think it's the same as the Bucs last year.
All right, so they were they both 2-2 here? Standings, just pulled them up. Seahawks moved to 2-2. Russ has never lost 3 games in a row as a starter, so that record remains. We now have, let's talk all NFC West here. Seahawks and Niners at 2-2. We'll talk Cardinals Rams, which we discussed on the PFF NFL Daily today. If you don't have the Daily, go download it. We discuss and pose the question, Sam, are the Cardinals the best team in the NFL? I know they're 4-0, and I know they've beaten some good teams. But we get in depth about whether or not the Cardinals are the best team. Impressive win against the Rams. So we'll talk about this game a little bit, but again, there's more detail on the Daily, and more specifically answering, are the Cardinals the best team in the entire NFL? So impressive win, man, especially what the Rams were coming off of last week.
Yeah, and this was the first game where Matthew Stafford hasn't looked phenomenal, and against the Cardinals defense, which is really overachieving, it feels like.
Stafford had probably the most incredible throw of the week, a cover 2 shot that was cover 2, not shot, but a seam ball right in the middle of 3 defenders. Best throw of the week, but the consistency wasn't there for Stafford. That was bad. And as you mentioned, Arizona's defense, still don't know what to make of them.
Yeah.
If you can trust them going forward.
I don't know why it's working, but it is. I haven't quite figured out why this is still functioning. Their secondary, just the personnel, looked like a massive weakness on paper. And honestly, it still kind of does. But they're outperforming that level. They're not giving up those big plays. Like Matthew Stafford thought he had Deshaun Jackson on a deep kind of post crossing route. And, it wasn't a well-thrown ball, but neither was it catastrophic. And then Byron Murphy just comes over the top, makes a play on it. Phenomenal play by him again. And he's made plays against Julio Jones. He's making plays against all these top receivers. Somehow that defense just isn't allowing any kind of big plays against it. And then teams haven't been efficient enough to kill them with 1,000 paper cuts underneath. So all of a sudden, the Rams offense struggled for the first time this year. And then they couldn't stop Arizona's offense, which is really taken that next step this year. That was the big question for them going into the season. Can Kingsbury take a step forward as an offensive mind, as a play caller? Can Kyler Murray take a step forward together? Can they develop? And what does the impact of a guy like Rondale Moore coming in do to this offense? All of a sudden, all of this is functioning at once, and nobody can stop them right now.
Yeah, somebody in the comments was saying, hey, I can't wait to hear you guys give Cliff Kingsbury credit. And again, it's not about where he moves guys around or whatever it is. I love the playmakers, man. I love what they've built. I didn't know what they were going to get out of AJ Green, but you have a game like this where you get something out of AJ Green, and he's your leading receiver. DeAndre Hopkins has been battling injury, and this is the thing too, right? Hopkins has been on all these teams where he's like the guy, and it's a top-heavy receiving core. And it was nice when he had Will Fuller with the Texans, but Will Fuller was hurt a lot. Last year, it was top-heavy again because Christian Kirk was playing outside. It's nice that the Cardinals don't just have to rely on DeAndre Hopkins. He doesn't have to be the guy because A.J. Green can have some games and Christian Kirk can have some games, and all of a sudden Max Williams was the not the leading receiver, but the most efficient receiver from a receiving grade standpoint yesterday. I love Max Williams. Use him more often, right? So Cardinals have options in the pass game. And also for, again, a Rams defense that always likes to invite the run, but still plays it pretty well with fewer box defenders. If you can go out there and gash them with some big runs when there's 5 and 6 guys in the box, that helps as well. So you don't have to completely rely on the pass. And the Cardinals did that. They did a nice job with that. Chase Edmonds ran the ball really well. He looks good. So you got playmakers. You got Kyler playing at a high level. Really impressed with what the Cardinals are doing.
Where are you putting the credit for this? Because the guy asking for Cliff Kingsbury to get the love, obviously this is like the opposite of the Chicago Bears Matt Nagy thing. It's not 100% one place and 0% somewhere else. There's credit going around all over this offense right now because it's doing really well. Where would you place the majority of the credit?
I think it's in the team building. I think there's a little bit in team building. There's a little bit in Kyler Murray, just hitting year 3 and actually having a bit of a linear progression. He's throwing the ball over the middle of the field much better. He adds a couple freak plays per game, which are great. We started to see more of that last year than we saw as a rookie. And then, Kingsbury's offense is going to work better when he's got better players.
Because to me right now, this is being driven by Kyler Murray way more than it's being driven by Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's doing something magically, schematically that is leading to this, but it's certainly a combination of everything. And Kingsbury, player development isn't just like, oh, I called this really good play. Like the coach, as the CEO, so to speak, deserves credit for like the whole at some point. So if the whole is getting better, including Kyler Murray playing better, the credit has to fall on the head coach at some point, right? It's not just Kyler getting better. But Kingsbury's a part of that development.
Like the question coming into the year was, can Kingsbury's offense develop and sort of take steps forward schematically so that this system is better and that the performance of everybody is better and allow Kyler Murray to be the better quarterback? You know, is his offense actually starting to hold back Kyler Murray was one of the things. And I don't know that he's done an awful lot that different this year than he had last year, but his playmakers are better and Kyler Murray is playing better. And therefore, everything is looking better. Like, I don't know that he's done that much different this year, and yet the results are obviously a lot different. Like, to me, Kyler Murray right now deserves the majority of the credit, and then, you know, the additions of guys like Rondale Moore and the moving of Christian Kirk, which, you know, Kingsbury definitely has a part of. Like, it's not, those things didn't happen in a vacuum. He was part of the decision-making process there. But then you get to, like, changes that he's made from a schematic or play calling point of view.
What do you make of the Rams then coming out of this? Here's Stafford's grade so far through 3 weeks. He was putting up MVP caliber stats with passing grades of 78.9, 79.9, 72.4 through 3 weeks. So 70s, high, those are good game grades, by the way. Mm-hmm. This game, 62.7. This is where, again, I don't know that the scheme was that much different other than Stafford missed more throws. And this is why, like, I want to give the Cardinals credit for what they're doing offensively. I'm still touch and go defensively. I think this was more of a Stafford left some plays on the table. Other than the best throw of the week, he left some plays on the table. And he's not as consistent as Jared Goff, who has the same grade range every single week.
True.
This grade, how about this? Stafford's passing grade this week is lower than anything Jared Goff has had this season.
Oh, no. No,
of course, Stafford has 3 better ones, much better ones as well. But maybe they just go as Stafford goes here, the Rams.
I mean, that's the risk of this, right? You bring in Matthew Stafford because the ceiling is so much higher, and when things start to break down and the offense can't get it working, Stafford brings something to the table that Jared Goff didn't, right? Jared Goff was a paint-by-numbers quarterback, and when the numbers don't exist anymore, Jared Goff can't paint. Matthew Stafford can extemporize. He can make plays up on the fly. He can what?
He can what?
Extemporize. It's a word. Look it up. It's not even one of the words of the day. I haven't even been sent that one. That was
Your vocabulary is that good?
It was just in the noggin. Now I really hope it's right.
I make up words like trickeration and you're extemporaneous.
My favorite part about that was the trickeration thing, the definition that somebody emailed us in, was not only that like it isn't a word, but that it's a word specifically made up by sports announcers to make themselves look smarter.
Good for you, man.
Right? It was a good one.
Compose, perform, or produce something such as music or a speech without preparation. Improvise.
There you go. See? Yeah.
That's good. Good vocab.
Uh-huh.
Proud of you.
Anyway.
Continue your point.
Stafford can do that. Goff can't, essentially. But the problem with that is it comes with downside. There's negative attached to it as well, which is why Matthew Stafford has been Matthew Stafford throughout his career and not, Peyton Manning. like for all the good that he brings when things break down and the ability to create on the fly, sometimes it doesn't go well. And he creates bad things on the fly.
The one other thing, too, what about the emotional aspect of this? Like the Cardinals played the Jaguars last week. The Rams beat the Bucs, right? They put a lot into beating the team to beat in the NFC last week, which was the Bucs. They played a great game. Again, I think it just shows how difficult it is week to week in the NFL and how difficult it's going to be in the NFC West. All right, 2 more games to get through here. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Green Bay Packers. Packers win 27-17. They got up early. Big Ben had a nice big-time throw for a touchdown, but there wasn't much else after that.
No, there wasn't.
For the Steelers.
This was pretty depressing if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan or player or coach.
Could you explain to me why last week they throw a swing pass to Najee Harris, not a swing screen.
On 4th and 10.
On 4th and 10.
Yep.
Not a swing screen. A swing screen is by design, and it puts blockers out in front. It was a swing pass.
Yes.
Early in the play, not like a 4-second check.
Yeah, like
down.
a designed swing.
And then Najee had about 18 defenders he had to try to get through.
The 4th and 10, the play drawn up to gain the 10 yards required to keep the game and the drive alive was a quick swing to Najee Harris in the flat and hoping – I don't even know what you're hoping for. Like, are you hoping that they're not covering it, or are you hoping that once they covered it, Najee can beat 1 or 2 or 3 or more players to the 10-yard line? Whatever it was, it didn't work.
Maybe Big Ben is an analytics guy.
Yeah.
And he was furious with the first-round running back selection. And, Petty Ben was just like, all right, I'll give it to my first rounder.
You think he's making a point?
4th and 10. Here you go. Go be a first rounder. Beat everybody for the first down.
I love these conspiracy theories. A friend of mine called Stevie texted me yesterday and was like, "Here's a theory that Rodgers intentionally was a disaster in week 1, just to send a warning, right? If you're gonna mess with me in the offseason, this is what it could look like. Like if I'm gonna play like this, it's all over. Forget it. Like, and then once that was out of the way, once the point was made, Rodgers goes back to being Aaron Rodgers, and we're cooking again.
I love that. Yeah, conspiracy theories are fun. Anyway, I
just
want to say on 4th and 4,
yes,
the same thing happened.
The same freaking play.
And it was a quick game concept, and they show the end zone angle, and he's got the little stick route wide open beyond the sticks or whatever, and he throws the swing pass again to Najee Harris.
Yeah.
Who again cannot juke 18 guys for the first down, even though he only needed 4 yards, because how the heck are you going to do that?
And then they had a 4th down later in the game, and it was like 4th and 4 or something again. So they threw like a 1-yard shallow cross to Juju, who's trying to Michael Jordan from Space Jam, trying to stretch 25 feet for the first down line. It's like, what are you running? These are there's merit to the idea of sometimes you need yards after the catch to pick up a first down.
Yeah, you can't always throw the ball beyond the sticks.
Right.
But on 4th down, you probably
But on 4th down, I would suggest that your primary motivation should be finding a route where it's already beyond. If you complete it, you've already made the first down, right? How's that? How about targeting a route where if the guy catches the ball, you've already made your play, and then everything on top of that is a bonus. Instead, they've been faced with 3 pretty freaking critical 4th downs in the last 2 weeks, and all of them have been absolute no-hope plays from the outset.
And all that said, right, there were plays. They had no Chase Claypool in Pittsburgh. Deontay Johnson came back, so they've had some injuries or whatever, but Juju was open up the seam once or twice, right? They've had open throws beyond the sticks, and Big Ben just continued to miss them, or he was just missing quick outs. I mean, he was just off, man. And he's been off, and he's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. So the cliff talk remains for Big Ben. He just does not look right physically. For all that we joke about Najee Harris, he's a pretty fun little running back, and he's tough to tackle, and he's
a
physical.
Good player.
He's a very good player, but that cannot save.
Nobody ever had
the
an
Steelers.
issue with Najee Harris, the player. The issue was always if you're drafting a running back because you looked at last year and said, "Oh, our running game was a problem. How do we fix that?" Well, you draft a running back. You draft a guy that's better than the running backs we had, and that's the difference between crappy running production and good running production. If that was your belief, you are being shown in no uncertain terms this season that is simply not how that works. And if your offensive line isn't good and can't run block, then Najee Harris, no matter how many tackles he breaks, is not going to transform that. And like that is the point. People are simply the kind of the glee that some people are taking from the demise of Pittsburgh is simply a reflection of A, we told you, and B, the reaction to all the Pittsburgh fans that were like, you guys are idiots. Najee Harris is a great pick. The offensive line will be fine. Like, there were some people that were pretty obnoxious about all that, and it's difficult not to, be like, well, how's that looking right now?
And the people that were like, oh, we were 11-0 last year. Big Ben's an MVP.
I mean, I don't know how many of those people still existed by the end of the season, but sure.
They are 2-8 since starting 11-0 last year. It was 11-0, right?
Yeah,
because they finished 12-4.
Team.
They finished the season 1-5, including the playoffs, and they're 1-3 at the moment. 2-8 since starting 11-0 last year. So it's not looking good in Steeler land as far as the Packers go. Another decent game for Rodgers. He actually missed a lot more throws than he usually makes. A lot of them were late. I felt like they were still trying to put some points on the board late. The Packers. But it was the Randall Cobb game. This was Aaron Rodgers, the conspiracy theory again, trying to prove that his trade acquisition of Randall Cobb was a good one.
Now that one I could buy.
Cobb looks good.
If that's a conspiracy theory, I might actually have some time for that.
It's not even a conspiracy. It's like, here's this player that I want to get involved.
Yeah, but like Randall Cobb hadn't really done much in the first few weeks, and you were in danger of this. Like, well, maybe we shouldn't be letting Aaron Rodgers make some decisions. And that's like we're gonna force feed Randall Cobb some targets here, so he ends up with 5 catches, 69 yards, and a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah,
I mean, I think there's a pretty good chance that happened.
He's always been, he's just always been such a good runner with the ball too. I mean, he played quarterback, he played wildcat quarterback in college, and he was so good after the catch. But even Aaron Rodgers, it was a third down game too. Rodgers making third down conversions, but Rodgers converts on third down. And then you see Cobb put his head down and run through the Steelers' defense, and he still has it, man. He still has some of that ability. Isn't he only 30 still? Weren't you telling me that this offseason? Like, he's still fairly young. A.J. Dillon also looks pretty good. He had 81 yards on 15 carries as well, the big 250-pound running back. And even just like the catch and run that he had for 16 yards, he is pretty nimble. Like you watch Derrick Henry catch the ball, which he's doing a lot more this year for the Titans. Derrick Henry's a little clunky in the pass game. A.J. Dillon's not like that. He's actually potentially a weapon for them as they go. Running back weapon. He's just kind of efficient in the run. He's efficient, I keep using, but he's a little more of a natural pass catcher than you would expect for 250. I see what the Packers saw in him. Not in the second round, but I see what they see in A.J. Dillon.
All right.
Anything else on this? Jair Alexander gets hurt late. Potential disaster.
Didn't he get hurt on the fourth down swing pass to Najee Harris? Because he was the guy I think that met him.
And I think he walked off and then got carted off.
Yeah.
Carted to the locker room after the fact.
Somebody broke out that stat. It was from like ESPN Stats and Info that Ben Roethlisberger become the first quarterback in the last 20 years or something to have completions on fourth downs that both lost yardage. Yes. Like, not only are they not picking up 4th and 10 and 4th and 4, but they're actually losing yardage on the plays they're attempting to pick them up with. That's amazing.
It's tough to do. It's really tough to do. All right, let's wrap it up. Baltimore Ravens 23, Denver Broncos 7. So the Broncos have their first loss. The Ravens move to 3-1, and Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt in concussion protocol early on. What'd you make of this game?
And Teddy, he got hurt. He was under siege for this entire game. Like, so this week was our Carolina for real, our Denver for real. Like, they were obviously a great record, but they hadn't really faced anybody yet. And this was kind of the week that both those team seasons were starting. Denver struggled a lot more. Now, their defense still looked pretty good. They did a nice job of keeping Lamar Jackson bottled up. Baltimore had this absurd streak going. So Pittsburgh had that sack streak going, right? The most consecutive games with a sack. It was like 40-something. I didn't even realize at the time, but that got broken last week when they had that complete failure of pass rush against Cincinnati. Didn't sack the Bengals, and that broke the streak. Baltimore has this streak going of consecutive 100-yard team rushing efforts, and
they still do,
and weren't breaking it until the very end of this game, where Drew Lock threw an interception in the end zone trying to get a consolation score, and rather than take a knee for the last 3 seconds on the clock, Baltimore ran a play with Lamar Jackson as the ball carrier to get the 3 yards or the 4 yards they needed to get over the 100 and keep that streak alive. That's a decision. When you consider this is a team that already lost a running back through meaningless carries in the preseason, handed a guy 6 snaps in one drive during
all of
which
the injuries the Ravens have had.
Right.
Now, granted, they've happened everywhere.
To
Practice,
not only
whatever.
To not only run the pointless play, but to run it with your quarterback is a hell of a decision. I mean, it's interesting. Baltimore gets talked about and are one of the most smart and progressive and sort of woke, quote unquote, franchises in terms of what they know about things that matter and how to do things. For them to decide that record, which in abstract terms is meaningless, right? 100-yard rushers or 100-yard team performance consecutively. For them to decide that was worth risking, one more Lamar Jackson play. Now you're all right, he's already carried the ball a bunch in the game. He risks every time he drops back. But this is genuinely, he takes a knee, 0 risk, versus we run him into a defense, some risk. I don't know what that risk is, but again, you're a team that's already lost a running back for the season on a pointless running play. And for them to just decide that was worth doing, I thought was really interesting.
Do you think they would do the same thing in the preseason to keep their 6-year winning streak alive?
The undefeated,
too?
Yeah.
If they know about the rushing record, they know about they were tweeting about the preseason thing.
Right.
There's a difference between the social media team and the actual coaching staff. I'm just saying there's some awareness there, obviously.
I just think it's interesting that they determined that late in the game it was worth running a play to try and get that record. I thought that was kind of fascinating.
Latavius Murray on track to be I guess Mark Ingram wasn't all that, success rate and yards per carry and all that stuff weren't great for Mark Ingram last year, but Latavius Murray dangerously being the guy that's just not as good in the Ravens system from a run game perspective. Broncos did a pretty good job up front.
The Denver defense, I think. So coming out of this game, you're well, what do we see from Denver in terms of those first 3 weeks versus this game? And I think the defense is still good.
Yeah.
The defense is for real, and it is going to cause problems for every team that they face.
Here's the thing about the Ravens, though, and Greg Rosenthal from Around the NFL, friend of the show, even though he hasn't been on it, I invited him to the show. But we haven't done it yet. He pulled out the stat last week that Lamar Jackson, crazy, leads the league in yards per completion and yards per carry. You just never see things like that, right? This is one of those games where the run game wasn't there for the Ravens. It wasn't as good as it usually is. But you've got Lamar they averaged 8.5 yards per attempt. He threw for 316. They had big plays.
This is
Marquise
game.
Brown catching the ball when he gets behind the defense this time. This is why that is the skill. The skill is getting behind the defense, keep chucking it, and Marquise Brown's going to make a dive and catch this time for a 49-yard touchdown. That's a big – they're creating these chunk plays in the pass game even when the run game's not there. That's a good sign for the Ravens.
This was a rough game for the people that say Lamar Jackson can't play if you force him into obvious pass situations. If he has to pass the ball without the threat of a run game, Lamar is found out. This game, he had to do that, and he absolutely still kept cooking. Made some great plays to Mark Andrews, hit the dime to Marquise Brown, who made an incredible diving catch to make the touchdown. That was a great play by him. But Denver's defense, I think, gave a really good account of itself given what they were facing. The offense had bigger problems. They were under siege all game long, whether it was Teddy Bridgewater, whether it was Drew Lock. The pressure packages that Baltimore blitz was showing them, God, they were just mean. You look at some of the plays, and if you look at it from the end zone view, where you're seeing what essentially a bird's eye view of what the quarterback is looking at in terms of the threat of the rushers. And you're there's 8 guys at the line of scrimmage. You have no idea who's coming. You have no idea who's dropping. You have no idea which side they're coming or dropping from. It's just trying to diagnose that and get a correct blocking scheme set up and a correct protection called is nuts. So Teddy was dealing with it before he went down, and then Drew Lock didn't fare an awful lot better. But
Half their dropbacks, by the way, they were pressured.
Yeah, and you could see it with Teddy. Like, even when he was able to navigate the pressure and get rid of the ball, his accuracy was suffering from it. And he's been really accurate so far this season, not just adjusted completion percentage, but actual ball location. And he was just leaving these passes like inside on defenders, and even when they were in man coverage, he's like hitting the defender in the shoulder rather than put it somewhere where his receiver can make a play. It just wasn't great. And then Drew Lock comes in. And you're like, in a funny way, this might not be terrible for them, because Drew Lock is the guy with the potential for the big play that could bring them back in a game like this. Like, as much as Teddy played better, is dinking and dunking going to get you back in this game? Probably not. Drew Lock comes in, actually has a deep shot to Courtland Sutton there, missed it. Like, a foot and a half or whatever, just out of reach. Like, that was a play that could have swung this game. Couldn't make it happen, and then same thing, like just getting destroyed by the blitz.
Sounds like we might see Locke at least this week.
Well, right? Concussion, yeah, there's a pretty good chance.
There's a pretty good chance we will see Locke. He made a couple nice throws. It was just late.
Yeah. He missed that throw to Courtland Sutton. There was another deep shot that he took where I think he just misread the coverage and didn't see Jimmy Smith dropping underneath it, and Smith just kind of cut it off. That wasn't great. That could have been more dangerous in a different situation. But overall, I didn't think either him or Teddy played that badly. They were just beaten up by the Baltimore pressure. Like, it's so amazing when you consider that Baltimore can't run that defense against the Chiefs, because Patrick Mahomes just toys with it and destroys you. And yet that lays asunder the Denver Broncos offense for two different quarterbacks.
But it's good on the Ravens, though, to be able to do that. Again, we talked about it all Chiefs week. Like, hey, maybe don't run your same scheme and, zero blitz all the time and all this stuff like they did against the Raiders in week 1. The ability to adjust week to week, morph defensively, zone, man, blitz heavy, soft, whatever it might be. It's a weapon for the Ravens. And I think that might be the story of the 4 weeks for the Ravens so far. We've seen them win. Well, not win, but they lost to the Raiders. But we've seen them blitz like crazy. We've seen them play coverage. We've seen them have success with both. We've seen them win with the ground game. We've seen them win with a deep passing game and create chunk plays. I think that stuff bodes well long term. And it doesn't feel like 2 years ago it was a dominant Ravens team. It felt better, right? This doesn't feel as clean for the Ravens this year because it hasn't been as clean. But I don't know if it matters. It's like just they came out of the first 4 games with 3 wins, 1 against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And
remember,
we're in a good position here.
We're a couple of weeks away from saying this team's about to drop to 0-2, and they have a nightmare of a run-in, like their final 7-game schedule. Like, the Baltimore Ravens are all of a sudden about to be in a deep hole. And they come out of the other side of that. They're 3-1, tied in first position with the Bengals and the Browns, neither of whom have looked amazing. Like, the Browns got their win against Minnesota, but like Cleveland hasn't looked. They threatened to beat the Chiefs, and it's like, oh, this is going to be a really good team. Like, they're going to be gunning for the AFC Championship game and looking to make a Super Bowl. And okay, they're 3-1 as well, but they haven't looked amazing doing it, other than on like defense. Has suddenly been tearing people to pieces. But if you're Baltimore, after the first couple of weeks, you suddenly have to feel pretty good about yourself.
Yeah, I love that 3-way tie. AFC North looking good, AFC West, NFC West, all looking good. Chiefs are still in last as of now.
Do we have a Villanueva update?
You got hurt. I don't know. Watch Good Morning Football. Maybe they'll have an update on him.
Your insider doesn't have that?
No, my insider does not have that. Somebody give me an Ali Villanueva update. I need him. I need him back. I need him back on the football field. How did he grade?
He was okay.
Before he got hurt.
Not too bad.
Pass blocking was better. All right, good.
I mean, that was he graded as you would expect Villanueva to grade at left tackle, which is solid as a pass blocker, not great as a run blocker.
This is the first time we actually got him the way he's supposed to be. All right, is that everything? Did we touch every game?
Did you know who their backup was before he had to come into the game?
Was it Andre Smith?
Yeah.
That's Andre's still lurking around, man.
I don't know how successful that's going to be if he has to play more than 8 snaps.
Yeah, at some point we'll see if the Ravens are battling here. We'll see if the injuries catch up to them at all. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to everybody on YouTube. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button if you've enjoyed this broadcast with us. We always enjoy.
If you've enjoyed this broadcast,
what the
hell
it's a
are
podcast.
you talking about?
Podcast. I don't know. I'm done. We've been here over 2 hours. It's been awesome. Reviewing all the Week 4 action tonight. We've got Chargers-Raiders. It's going to be great as well. If you want a preview for that, go back, listen to the preview show where we talked about every single game. But thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll be back here on Wednesday.